With the defeat of the Nightmare Tyrant, the Nightmare Realm began to revert back to its original form. Flowers bloomed in the fields, and Anne wandered off from her group to pick them.
Should we follow her?
Mike asked, but Kiyu shook her head.
Enjoy this,
The fairy said. Anne settled down in the field of flowers and sighed happily. The sun shone, the wind blew, and the birds sang. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She opened them and saw darkness. A black-winged shadow stood over her, blocking the sun.
Who are you?
She asked.
Why, it's Fluttershy.
Came the response.
What are you doing here?
She looked around. They were in Ponyville. The grass stretched down to the edge of the city, and everything around her was green and pleasant. Or so it seemed.
We're moving away from this place.
She said.
It's dangerous here.
Do you know who I am?
You're the girl who saved the world.
Me? No, I didn't.
Anne replied.
I know great hero like you and your friends.
I'm not talking about what you did. I mean, who are you? You're no pony either.
No, I'm not.
You're a human.
Yes, I'm a human girl from the Under.
Fluttershy's eyes glowed as she stared into Anne's, and Anne knew she was being evaluated by the Nightmare Queen.
I see what's happening.
Fluttershy said softly.
You're experiencing a vision.
Yeah, I think so.
This is the power of the Nightmare Tyrant. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's like a vision, but better. It's more real.
What do you want?
To talk to you. To ask you a question.
Anne smiled.
What?
Will you come with me?
Where are you going?
I'm going to take you to the Nightmare Tyrant.
But I don't want to go with you.
You thank me.
Anne's bright eyes were a beacon in the darkness, and the black wings spread wide.
I don't know.
I do.
Fluttershy said.
I'll be waiting for you by the Nightmare Tyrant's throne. Wait.
Ginny yelled. Anne turned to see a blue and white robot with a shadowy hedgehog following behind her.
We need her alive.
Ginny said.
Why?
Anne asked.
To save the world.
Ginny said, pointing to the sky. Anne looked up and saw a blue bird fly overhead.
Oh, I'm dreaming again.
Anne said calmly. She looked at Ginny.
That's why you're here, the wee girl from my dreams.
You were the girl from my dreams.
Ginny replied.
I'm just here to save the world.
That's all you need to do.
Anne said.
Just go.
I don't want to go without you.
You'll be fine.
Ginny awoke, confused, in a field of flowers. Shadow was sitting across from her, a concerned look on his face. The others were gone. Ponyville was gone. It had been a dream after all. They were getting more frequent and more disquieting.
Who are they?
She asked softly.
Why are they following me?
They're your nightmares made real.
Shadow said.
They're after you because they know you have power. They want to take it from you.
I don't want to be their puppet.
Yes, you do. You don't have a choice.
I can become a hero.
You can't. You wouldn't be good at it. Heroes have to kill, and they don't get to choose. It's either kill or die.
Maybe that's how it was for you.
Ginny said.
I think I can be a hero without having to kill.
You are on. It's kill or die.
Ginny got up and said.
I'll do it myself.
No, you won't. You're not ready. Wait until you're more prepared.
I don't want to listen to you anymore.
Ginny said.
I'm going to save the world.
Good luck.
Shadow said. She walked away. He was worried for her, but didn't know what he could do to help. He wished he could take her away from this place, but that was impossible. He looked up at the sun. It was a different sun, a brighter sun, and it was high in the sky. There was no evening, no night. Everything was sunlight. He felt a surge of joy and relief. He'd been worried for her for so long. Finally, he had someone to talk to, someone to laugh with, someone to play with. The hedgehog looked up at the bright yellow sun. There was still a hint of sadness in his eyes. He sighed and said,
I miss.
The bird flew overhead. It was the same bird that Anne had been talking to, but it wasn't Anne. He recognized it from the battle in the Nightmare King's monastery.
Why are you here?
He asked.
What is it you want?
The bird flew closer and said,
I'm here to talk to you about friendship.
Friendship.
Yes, friendship, will you help me?
The bird landed on his hand and looked up at him. It was a sunny day, but the hedgehog's eyes were still sad.
I can't.
The bird hopped down and said,
Why not?
Because
the hedgehog began. He sighed and said,
I'm lonely.
The bird looked down and said,
I'm lonely sometimes.
The hedgehog looked down at the bird and said,
I'm lonely often.
The bird hopped down and said,
That's because you're a soldier.
The hedgehog raised his eyes to the sun and said,
I'll be lonely when I die.
The bird hopped down and said,
That's not true. You'll always have friends.
Ginny stopped walking, turning to listen to their conversation.
I'll always have friends when I'm dead.
The hedgehog countered.
No, you won't.
Ginny looked between the two and said,
What are you talking about?
Never mind. Come on, let's go. Go.
But
Ginny began to say, and then said no more. The bird turned to Ginny and said,
Come with us. We're leaving.
Ginny looked around and said,
where? are we going?
Wherever there's sunshine.
the bird said.
A place of favor and grace.
Ginny looked around and said,
Is there a reason I should go with you?
Yes, there's someone who wants to see you.
the bird said.
Who is it?
Just come with us.
the bird said. Ginny looked around and said,
I don't like being told what to do.
Who does?
the bird asked. Ginny said,
I don't like being treated like a child.
the bird looked around and said.
Do you want to stay here?
Ginny looked around and sighed.
No.
Then come with us.
the bird said.
Fine.
Ginny said. The bird said.
I've been waiting for you.
It took Ginny's hand and said.
Come on.
Shadow and Ginny followed the bird over hills of flowers. The bird flew ahead and said.
I've been waiting for you too.
They came to a beautiful meadow of light. Ginny gasped and said.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The meadow was light, but there was a darkness to it. Shadows dotted the ground and it was cold. Ginny shivered and said.
I wish we could stay here forever.
The bird, which was now circling Ginny, said.
You can.
How?
Ginny asked.
Follow me.
The bird said.
I'll show you.
Ginny followed the bird and they flew away from the meadow. They passed over hills of grass, winding through them.
Isn't this fun?
The bird asked.
Yes.
Ginny said.
Is this because you're lonely?
Yes.
The bird said.
It's because I'm lonely.
Ginny looked down at her feet and said.
Are you real?
The bird laughed and said.
Of course. What do you think this is?
Ginny didn't answer and said.
How long have I been walking?
A few days.
This is another dream, is it?
Ginny asked. Shadow put his hand on her shoulder.
Not this time, Jenny.
You've been dreaming about me.
The bird asked.
Well, I've been dreaming about you.
Really?
Ginny said.
What have you been dreaming?
Many things.
The bird said.
But my dreams all feature you and the human girl.
With leaves in her hair.
Ginny asked, perking up.
Yes.
The bird said.
And we were together.
Why are we having the same dreams?
I don't know.
Admitted the bird.
But I suspect it has something to do with dreaming princess.
Ginny smiled and said.
Let's keep walking.
We can't.
The bird said.
Why not?
Because I'm a bird and when the sun sets I turn into shadow. I can't see.
This is not something I knew about birds.
Ginny admitted.
We have time.
The bird said.
The sun will stay up for a few more hours. We're almost there.
Ginny didn't answer and continued walking. They walked through valleys of flowers, over hill after hill of sweet-smelling grass. Ginny's eyes watered and she stopped to blink them. Suddenly, the bird said,
Look.
Over the horizon, Ginny and Shadow saw several of their friends. Spike, Mordecai, Mike, and several others they didn't know were all standing around, talking and laughing.
That's our friends.
Ginny said.
Yes.
The bird said.
I'm so happy to see them.
Where are we?
Ginny asked.
The dawning.
Ginny and Shadow walked faster and soon were running. They ran through fields of flowers and ducked behind hedges against the rising sun. They kept running and didn't stop until they reached the circle.
Holy crap! It's Jenny and Shadow.
Mike said as they approached.
Hey! Eyes.
Ginny said.
I don't fucking believe this.
Spike said, shaking his head in disbelief.
What are the two of you doing here?
We came to find you.
Ginny said.
Yeah, come on, follow us.
Spike said, and led the way into the circle.
This is cute. Sandy, Scooby, and Dan.
Spike said, introducing them to the new allies. Ginny's eyes widened when she saw Anne.
You.
She said, Anne recognized her as well.
What are you doing here?
Fighting alongside you guys.
Mordecai interjected.
We're not fighting for you.
Ginny said.
Yeah, we're not.
Anne said.
Do you know each other?
Sandy asked.
She's the girl from my dreams.
Anne said.
The ones I've been telling you guys about.
The bird fluttered down and landed on Ginny's head. Anne pointed to her.
And that's a bird.
Whoa, that's so crazy.
Mordecai said.
You don't see birds that blue very often.
I guess not.
Sandy said.
What's the plan?
Kyo asked.
We're gonna go get the bird back to its world.
Ginny said.
Shut up, Jenny.
The bird said, pecking her head lightly.
I'm not going back to my world. Don't talk about me going back there.
I thought you wanted to get out of here.
Ginny asked.
I do.
The bird said.
But I'm lonely.
Well, then why don't you get with one of the others?
Ginny suggested.
Because they are not as fun.
You were fun.
Ginny said.
I'm a bird. I need you to stick by me. Otherwise, I might as well be alone again.
I'll stick by you.
Thanks, Jenny.
The bird said.
I really appreciate it.
So, who else is coming?
Anne asked.
We'll be meeting up with them later.
Ginny said.
We'll be ready.
Sandy said.
What time should we meet up? Soon.
Ginny said, rubbing the bird's head.
Why don't you rest for a while?
I can't still have a lot of energy. Besides, I want to be here for the others to meet up with us.
Okay.
Ginny said.
I hope they know where they are meeting up with us.
The bird said.
Saga.
Ginny said. The bird smiled and said.
I'm glad I have you, Jenny.
And I have you. And I'm glad I have you too. And
Ginny smiled.
we're friends.
Yes, we are.
The bird said. Anne and the others watched as the bird flew off into the sky.
I think that went well.
Sandy said.
Wow, that was a lot of fun.
Mike said.
You sure know how to pull a crowd, girl.
Mordecai said.
It was nice to meet you.
Ginny said, taking Anne's hands in her own.
You too.
Anne said.
I'm glad we're finally meeting in person.
Ginny said.
So am I.
Anne said. Anne and Ginny walked off with the bird flying overhead while the group watched them.
Shadow.
Spike said as they watched the trio frolic.
You look worried.
I am.
Shadow said.
I think we need to go after them. I think we need to go rescue them.
That's not gonna happen.
Mordecai said.
I'm just worried that something's happened to them.
Shadow said.
What could happen to them? That hasn't happened already.
Sandy asked.
I don't know.
Shadow said.
We haven't exactly been the best Ollies, but I imagine they still have to worry about us too.
Kiyu said.
Yeah, I suppose.
Shadow said.
We did save them from the gold, remember?
Sandy said.
But that was because we needed their help to get to the Lost City.
Shadow said.
I don't remember any of that shit.
Mike said, rolling his eye.
Well, we still helped them.
Sandy said, rolling her own eye.
In the meantime, they're probably having a blast.
Kiyu said, smiling.
I don't care.
I guess we shouldn't either.
Sandy said. The group spent the next few hours resting. They needed to conserve their energy because they had a long way to go. As the sun began to set, they knew that they needed to start moving.
We're gonna have to split up soon.
Kiyu said.
I know.
Spike said.
We're gonna need all the help we can get.
Mordecai said.
Well, I suppose.
Spike sighed.
We can go up and check on the others.
Mike said.
I'm worried about Twilight.
Mordecai said.
Are you worried about Zelda, Mike?
Spike asked.
No.
Mike said.
We're just going to check on them.
Sandy said.
You'll be right there, right, Spike?
I suppose. Well, I'm gonna go with Jenny then.
Anne said.
Good.
Ginny said. And so they all split up, going their separate ways. Only Spike was left alone in the field that had once been part of the Nightmare Realm. Once again, Spike felt the darkness creep up on him. This always happened when he was alone. The shadows were just so much easier to hide in. He felt completely defenseless without his sword or the powers of the symbiote. He wasn't sure how he would get out of this one. He sat down inside, resting his head in his hand. It had been a long day.
You should probably get out of the shadows. Shadow.
A voice said.
Who?
Spike's eyes widened.
Is that you? Lady Dimitrescu?
Yeah. I need your help.
What do you need?
Spike asked, but Alcina cut him off.
I need you to get me the Stone of Volcar.
Alcina? I thought you were dead.
Spike said.
I mean, we watched them bury you.
I know.
So? How?
I'm a ghost. You silly dragon.
Alcina said. Spike looked around but couldn't see her. He couldn't see much of anything. There was nothing but darkness all around him.
How can you see me?
Spike asked.
I'm invisible to everyone in the Nightmare Realm but my queen.
But how?
I'll show you how we get to the Volcar Citadel, and you can figure out the rest. Follow me.
Spike followed the sound of her voice, and soon he found himself in a sort of underground cavern. In the middle of it, a portal opened up.
I can see a thing.
Spike said, looking around.
That's because I'm a ghost.
Alcina said. Spike said, embarrassed.
I don't see why that's such a big deal. It's not like I'm gonna hunt your ass back.
It's fun, really.
Spike said.
We ghosts can't interact with our living counterparts too much sooner or later. The living take care of their own problems, and we have to move on. You don't have anything to worry about. Than the fact that you look like shit.
Alcina.
A voice hissed.
Sorry, Queen. I just like to talk.
Spike thought he knew that voice, but he just shook his head and stepped through the portal. Once again, he found himself in the middle of the battlefield, covered in his own blood.
Alcina, what the hell?
Spike couldn't believe he was on this battlefield again. It had all happened so long ago, but that portal had sent him back. He wiped the blood from his claws. He took a deep breath.
I need to slay the Nightmare Tyrant and stop this war.
He shouted to the demons around him.
I will let none of you pass until I do this.
And with that, he charged at the Nightmare Tyrant. He would not make the same mistakes that he had before. To his surprise, however, Spike merely passed through the Nightmare Tyrant. He didn't even seem to notice him.
This won't be the last of me.
Spike roared. He looked around. Was this another trick? No, he was still there. He realized this must just be a vision, a living memory of his lowest moment. He looked around again. The battlefield was filled with the dead and dying. The demons had taken heavy casualties. He then spotted himself, his past self, cutting down the members of the Black Fang. He wore the Nightmare Tyrant's armor and brandished his sword. The blood shard glimmered on his helmet. Spike shook his head. This couldn't be real. He had to look again. No, his past self was there. He raised his sword and began to charge at another demon. There was no doubt in his mind. He saw his old allies, servants of the Nightmare Tyrant. He saw Shrek and Shaggy and Bender, all of them as their old selves. It sent a shiver down his spine. But when he looked again, there was no other self. Only his, the real him, safe in the arms of the ghost of Alcina.
I didn't need to relive that.
Spike said as Alcina hugged him.
I tried to forget that I ever worked with the Nightmare Tyrant. Why would you send me back there?
Hi.
The ghost said.
I needed to see how strong of a warrior you'd become. I thought you were a little too soft to defeat at the hands of the Blood Moon. I thought you'd be more like your grandfather. But you're stronger than you've ever been. You'll be an even better fighter.
He cocked his head. Alcina was telling the truth. She wasn't lying.
But I thought I was supposed to save the world?
He said, remembering the Nightmare Tyrant's words.
You will.
She said,
But first, you need to serve the Nightmare Tyrant once more.
What? No!
Yes.
No, I can't do that. I can't go back there.
he said, terrified.
You have to, Spike.
Why?
Because I need you to.
What do you mean?
I need you to bring me the shards of Excalibur.
What?
Alcina nodded.
There's a new Nightmare Tyrant, Spike. Think you may know her.
Spike looked around and realized he was in the throne room of Castle Oblivion. It had been so long, but he'd recognize it anywhere. He looked to the throne, and his eyes widened when he saw who sat there.
Fluttershy?
He asked, astonished. Thinking she was just a figment of his imagination, he thought long ago that the Nightmare Tyrant could have been Applejack sitting in that throne, but it couldn't be.
My love, have you finally come for me?
The Nightmare Tyrant asked seductively.
I have a better question.
Spike said.
How? How do I know that's you?
Because
The Nightmare Tyrant said, grinning evilly.
I am you?
No.
Spike said.
You don't own me. I'm a free spirit.
Not anymore.
The Nightmare Tyrant said.
You're my slave, your will is my will, and you will do as I say.
That's no way to treat your friends.
Spike said.
Friends?
The Nightmare Tyrant asked.
What friends? I cast you, huh? Are you banished? You have no friends. I am all you have, slave.
Spike looked to the ghost of Alcina and saw the Shadow Weaver standing behind her.
Don't listen to her.
The Shadow Weaver said.
She's being corrupted by the Nightmare Tyrant's will. This hunger is becoming her hunger. That's why we need the shards of Excalibur and the stone Vulcan.
It is.
He asked.
Yes,
The Nightmare Tyrant said. Spike turned to the Nightmare Tyrant again.
I can't believe this is you.
He said.
it is me, Spike.
She said, brushing her hair from her face.
A lot has happened since we were friends in Ponyville.
You're insane.
Spike said, shaking his head in horror.
Perhaps, but I am not the only Nightmare Tyrant.
There's two of you.
She tapped her forehead with one hoof.
In here, they're battling. I don't know who will win.
But you're sitting on the throne.
Spike said, horrified.
I'm the Nightmare Tyrant. What would you have me do?
What do you mean?
Help me put down the old tyrant for good.
She said.
You're the only one I can trust with this.
And if I don't?
You'll have to make a decision.
But
You'll just have to make it without my help, slave.
please stop calling me that. Fluttershy.
Fluttershy.
She said.
My, how you've changed? I used to call you, well, I suppose you'd call me Princess, back when we were friends.
The stone of Vulcan was here, but it's been taken to the Emerald City.
Shadow Weaver explained.
You should track that down first, and find the shards of Excalibur from there.
What about the Nightmare Tyrant?
I'll take care of her.
I will be here, watching Fluttershy battle Garfield.
The Nightmare Tyrant said.
I want to see who wins.
Okay.
Spike said.
I'll get the Stone of Vulcan for you, but I'm not helping you with this battle.
Of course, slave.
She said.
We want to send someone with you to keep an eye on you.
Alcina said. She gestured behind her, and two figures stepped forward. A young man and a ghost.
This is the Dust-Face Ghost, Velma.
Alcina explained.
She will accompany you on your quest.
I'll go with you too.
Velma said.
Ah!
Spike said.
I don't need to go shattering in my ear.
Too bad.
Alcina said. Velma turned to hug the man.
Good be Fred. Hell, Daphne, I'll see her when we get the stone.
I will, Velma.
Fred said. Spike sighed heavily. He was in so many worlds at once. It was no wonder his mind was going. Velma accompanied Spike across the landscape. As a ghost, she didn't tire and had no trouble keeping up with him.
So, we're going to the Emerald City.
Spike asked.
That's where the stone is supposed to be.
I've been to the Nightmare Realm before.
Spike said.
I think I can find my way around there again.
You said you didn't know where the stone is.
There's so many magic stones and gems in this world. Who can keep track of them all?
My point exactly. Guineas. The former Nightmare Tyrant probably has his minions searching every inch of the place to find the stone just in case. Most people probably just think it's gone forever. Like they did with me. I bet it's in some kind of magic chamber, under someone's bed, or behind a set of false walls or something.
You sound like you have a lot of experience with this sort of thing.
Well, in another life I was quite the mystery solver.
I have lots of experience with a lot of things.
Spike said.
I never would have guessed.
Velma said.
You're just jealous that I've solved more puzzles than you.
Spike said.
I'm not jealous of that.
She said.
Well, maybe a little.
Spike said.
Besides, we'd have to kill each other before that could happen.
She said.
And I'm already dead.
Huh? I just don't like you.
Spike said.
That's not the same thing at all.
Okay, you got me there. Guess we're even.
After weeks of traveling, the pair eventually reached the borders of the realm. The Emerald City glittered in the distance.
Be careful.
Velma said.
Don't worry, I've got a master plan.
I wish I did.
She said. They continued on. Slowly, the Emerald City grew larger and larger. Eventually, they were close enough to make out the details of the city. They hadn't seen it up this close since the day they'd left. The lights and magic were blinding.
We'll find the chamber and steal the stone back. Velma?
Spike said.
Then, we'll put this crazy old world behind us.
I hope so, Spike.
They entered the city, and Spike knew right away that they were in for some trouble. The streets were crowded with strange creatures, the former prisoners of the Nightmare Realm, who'd been known as the Lost. Spike recognized many of them, but kept his head down low as he and Velma traversed the city. He didn't want to stick out like a sore thumb. Just in case, he walked with a slight limp, his tail drooped, and he didn't talk very much.
I thought this had become a date city.
Velma said.
I didn't realize there'd be so many people here.
What?
Spike said.
Look at the time.
What's that supposed to mean?
Never mind.
He said. They made their way to the central castle, where they assumed the stone to be. It was a massive structure made of shimmering emerald. It towered into the city and glowed with a deep green magic. Outside the castle, Spike spotted two of his old friends, Rarity and Rainbow Dash. He broke away from Velma and made his way over to his old friends.
I never thought I'd see you again, Spike.
Rarity said.
What on earth are you doing here?
Fluttershy sent me to find the Stone of Volcar.
Spike explained.
She said it would be here.
Yes, Fluttershy.
Rarity said.
She sure has changed, hasn't she?
Yeah, she has.
Said Spike.
Are you going to tell her we found the stone?
Rainbow Dash asked.
I was planning to once I found it. Of course.
Spike said.
Of course.
Rainbow Dash said, rolling her eyes.
You never could finish a sentence. Could you?
I've learned I should leave all thought of words to the dragons.
Spike said, smiling.
I do so love your sarcastic edge, Spike.
Rarity said.
So, do you have the stone with you?
Velma asked.
No.
Rainbow Dash said.
A lot of stuff happened, but we gave the stone to the Emerald Herald.
What?
Spike asked, his face in his palm.
You did? What?
We gave it to the Herald, silly.
Rainbow Dash said.
We're going to set up a residence in the city of Emerald, so we could always visit from time to time.
I see.
I'm just going to go in and get it.
Velma said. She floated into the castle, leaving the others behind.
Who's that ghost girl?
Rainbow Dash asked.
I forget her name,
Rarity said.
but she's a good soul. I'm sure you'll get along.
She's that.
Spike said. Velma floated through the Emerald Castle, passing effortlessly through the shimmering walls. She made her way to the throne room, where she sensed the stone to be. She found it on the very same pedestal, glowing brightly.
Well,
She said, picking it up.
I think this is the real thing.
Can you bring it back?
Velma turned, startled, to see the calm face of the Emerald Herald.
Bring what back?
She asked, confused.
The one you took from me.
The Herald said.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Velma said. The Herald's eyes drifted to the stone in Velma's hand.
Oh, this?
She said, holding it up sheepishly.
I don't know how that got.
I know why you seek it.
The Herald interrupted her.
If it will help the Nightmare Queen silence the tyrant, you may have it. I only ask that you return it, as it is a valuable artifact of our fair city.
I'll try.
Velma said, putting the stone in her pocket. Velma floated out of the throne room and into the castle. She made her way back to Spike and the others, feeling the Herald's eyes on her.
So, did you get the stone?
Spike asked.
Yep.
She said, walking over to them.
Let's go.
Spike grinned and stuck out his tongue at Rainbow Dash.
I was just being sarcastic.
He said.
I don't really have anything against you.
I know.
Come on.
She said, grabbing his hand.
Let's get out of here.
Spike walked next to Velma.
Thanks for getting the stone.
He said.
This was the easy part.
She said.
The shards of Excalibur will be much harder to locate.
They made their way towards the exit when the sound of shattering glass echoed throughout the city.
What was that?
Velma asked in alarm.
I don't know,
Spike said.
but I'd rather not find out.
They looked around, searching for the source of the noise. Suddenly, Spike froze.
I don't like this place.
He whispered. Velma nodded, grinning.
This is why we brought a dragon. Right.
She said.
Now, let's find those shards of Excalibur.
A sharp pain erupted from Velma's chest. She groaned, clutching her chest as she stumbled.
Velma,
Spike cried, hurrying to her side.
what's wrong?
Velma pressed her hand against her chest, trying to stop the pain.
The shards, they're gone.
She gasped.
What? They're gone. I think.
Velma collapsed to the ground, her eyes slowly rolling back into her head.
I told you.
She whispered.
I told you it would come to this.
Spike dropped to his knees next to her, desperately trying to find a pulse. He placed his fingers against her neck, but then he remembered that she was a ghost. There was no pulse, but something wasn't right. Spike wasn't sure what, but
I can't find a pulse, but something's not right.
he said, panicking.
We've got to get help. We've got to go back.
We can't.
Velma said.
Excalibur has to be protected.
Spike stepped back, unsure of what to do, as a green energy radiated from Velma's body. He stood, rooted to the spot, as a chill ran down his spine. She rose from the ground, her body shimmering as she ascended into the air.
What? What are you?
Spike cried. Velma looked at him, her eyes full of pain.
I'm a ghost, Spike. Remember?
She said.
The last Dust Face ghost.
No, I mean, Yes, but no!
A pulse of energy burst from her and she fell to her feet. To her shock, she touched the ground. Solid.
Olaf.
Velma asked, confused.
What?
There's something not right about this.
Spike muttered.
We've got to get out of here.
Velma said.
Yeah, hurry!
Spike said. They ran from the city, dodging the Lost, until they exited the front gates. Velma's lungs burned with the effort, and she realized she could feel pain for the first time in ages.
I can feel pain again.
She gasped.
What's the point in being a ghost if you can't feel pain?
Spike asked.
Now, can you get us to the Wonder Factory? I'd rather not spend another minute in that city.
They traveled in silence. After a few minutes, they came within sight of the Wonder Factory. Spike and Velma entered the Wonder Factory. The two were in luck because their arch-enemy, Freddy Fazbear, was in the building as well.
Look who it is. The infamous Freddy Fazbear.
Spike declared.
And his trusty sidekick, Velma.
Said Velma.
You two are a sight for sore eyes,
said Freddy, fawning all over Spike and Velma.
I'm going to be so glad when this terrible curse is lifted and we can turn back into human beings again. Of course, we won't be needing this goofy factory anymore, so we can just destroy it.
Oh, I wouldn't do that,
said Velma.
I've always wanted to see it up close.
I know you have, Velma,
said Freddy.
And I'm sure I never want to see it again either.
Velma looked at Freddy and the two started to chuckle.
I've got a solution to our problem right here,
Velma said, pulling the stone of Volcar out of her pocket.
See this, Freddy?
Said Velma.
This is the stone of Volcar.
Is it?
Asked Freddy.
I've never seen a stone like that before. It looks like a ruby to me.
Rubies are red, silly,
Velma said.
This stone brought me back to life.
Is it a fake?
Freddy asked.
What?
Asked Velma.
Is this a fake?
Of course not, Freddy,
said Velma.
I'd never do a thing like that to you, I'm telling you the truth.
Well, I guess we were stuck with you then,
said Freddy.
Yes, we are,
said Velma.
Now let's get to work.
Work?
Freddy asked.
You mean steal a bunch of animatronic robots from this place?
We're not here about the robots,
Spike said.
We're collecting the shards of Excalibur.
Velma explained.
Shards of what?
Asked Freddy.
Excalibur,
said Velma.
It's the sword of King Arthur.
Never heard of it,
said Freddy.
Of course you haven't, because no one's ever told you about it.
Said Velma.
Who cares?
Freddy said.
I don't want to hear about it. I'd rather just hear about the robots. What's the point of having them if I don't get to use them?
Why would you want to use them anyway?
Velma asked.
You're not exactly the heroic type. You'd probably turn into a coward if you actually had to go through with a heroic deed.
I don't care,
said Freddy.
I want to take the robots anyhow. So let's just get to it.
Velma rolled her eyes and sighed.
Fine,
she said.
We have to break into the Wonder Factory.
This is the Wonder Factory,
Freddy said, gesturing to the walls that hummed with magic and electricity.
Well, yeah, but there's other areas beyond this,
said Velma.
Other places where we can steal robots.
Oh, really?
Freddy asked.
Yes.
Velma said.
So let's get to it, shall we?
Freddy yawned, and the three villains walked into the factory and down the halls.
You should have asked me first,
Freddy said.
We've just begun work again after the tyrant shut us down. We've only been in operation for a few weeks.
The point is,
Velma said,
you're new around here, so you don't know the lay of the land. I worked here for years. Before the fall, I've seen every area of the factory.
Really?
Freddy asked.
Yes, really.
Velma said.
Now come on. I know where the shard is.
I suppose it can't be avoided.
Freddy sighed. Freddy, Spike, and Velma walked down the halls of the Wonder Factory.
I'm not sure any of the robots are going to be working today,
Freddy said.
Most of the workers are stuck in the basement, and the rest are either on their lunch break or doing maintenance on the building.
There goes that plan then,
said Spike.
You say we could use the robots to steal the shards, but now the only ones we can use are the ones that aren't working.
Or we could steal the robots that aren't being used.
What if one volunteered?
Came a voice from the shadows. The three turned to see a robotic wolf girl dressed in vibrant clothes. Sitting next to her was a young woman with green hair.
Your friends Rarity and Rainbow Dust told us you might need some help,
the wolf girl said.
My name's Roxanne. This is Jolene.
I'm Spike,
the dragon said.
And this is Velma. So what do you say? Can we catch you in?
What exactly are we supposed to do? Exactly,
Freddy asked.
Well,
said Roxy.
If the other pennies knew we helped you out, they'd never let us live it down.
Exactly,
said Spike.
Don't listen to her, Spike.
Velma said.
I know you too. You helped defeat the Nightmare Turret.
And you stole the stone I gave through the Emerald Hero.
Roxy replied.
But we all want the same thing, don't we?
Yeah,
said Spike.
The destruction of the Nightmare Turret. As it stands, he might still win out over Fluttershy. And we can't have that.
Sure, that's true enough,
said Freddy.
But how do we know if we can trust you?
You don't.
But
said Velma.
we helped you out.
Well,
said Roxy.
we certainly don't want to hurt you.
And we certainly don't want to hurt you.
At that moment, a voice crackled over the factory's loudspeakers.
All employees should immediately return to their jobs. The Nightmare Tyrant has returned, and we cannot allow him to wreak havoc once again. All employees should report for duty at once, or suffer the consequences. Repeat, employees should report for duty at once, or suffer the consequences.
That's our cue to leave,
said Roxy.
But what about the shards?
Spike asked.
We'll worry about that later,
said Velma.
I suppose.
Come on,
said Roxy.
We need to hurry. I hear a bunch of maintenance bots coming this way.
Roxy led the group out of the factory, through the halls, and to a maintenance entrance. Roxy typed in the code and the locks clicked, and the doors swung open. The group walked out into a hallway.
The only way to go is down this elevator,
Roxy said, leading the way.
I think I know another way.
Velma said.
Oh.
Yeah, all the main entrances to the factory are guarded by security bots. We could sneak in through an underground service tunnel.
I love it when you two get all devious,
said Spike.
But even I wasn't aware of the existence of the tunnel. You two bring me any souvenirs?
Nothing yet,
Velma said.
But we'll have to search all the service tunnels.
Then lead on,
Spike said.
To the place where I can get even.
Velma, Freddy, and Spike walked through the tunnels. Roxy and Jolene followed close behind. Freddy kept glancing behind him, expecting to see a security bot coming down the hallway, but they seemed to be alone. Soon, they arrived at a ladder leading up to the factory floor.
The service tunnels come out here,
Velma said, climbing up the ladder and emerging into the open. The group followed Velma out of the service tunnels and into the open factory floor.
So where is everyone?
Jolene asked.
They are all on their lunch break,
said Velma. The room appeared empty, buzzing with electronics and green magic. They looked around the room but were surprised to find they weren't as alone as they thought. Standing in the corner, behind a large factory panel, was a purple dragon watching them.
Well,
said the dragon, shifting into the form of a tall green woman.
Isn't this classy? I haven't seen you since your last raid on my homeworld, and it looks like you brought some friends.
Hello, Maleficent,
Velma said, stepping forward.
We need to speak with you.
Why?
Maleficent asked.
You're guarding one of the shards of Excalibur.
Velma said.
We needed to put an end to the Nightmare Turret once and for all.
Oh, they are cute,
Maleficent said.
And I suppose you might be useful. But I suppose you don't now, that do you?
Oh, yeah,
Velma said.
We might.
Oh. How convenient in that case. I suppose you can all come with me to retrieve the shard.
What?
said Jolene, stepping back.
No, I'm not going to.
It's okay, Jolly,
said Velma.
She's not planning on betraying us.
I should hope not,
Maleficent said, scanning the group.
I'll have to get rid of you.
No, that's not,
said Jolene.
But
said Roxy.
Oh, I can't wait to see the look on the Nightmare Tyrant's face when he finds out,
said Maleficent, smiling.
Now, come along, you five.
I'm not going anywhere with you.
Jolene said.
Oh, I wouldn't recommend trying to run away.
I'm not running away.
Jolene said.
I'm not the one who's betraying her best friends.
Oh, really?
Really?
said Roxy, stepping forward.
Let's see if this little chat between friends turns into a fight. No.
Jolene said.
This isn't how.
Shush!
said Roxy.
If you say one more word,
said Maleficent.
I'll have to attack you and the Nightmare Tyrant will win.
Fine.
Jolene said.
I'll go with you, but I'm still not.
Not another word.
said Roxy.
Let's just trust her. I've got your back.
Okay.
Jolene said.
I'll go with you.
Maleficent turned to face the open doorway.
Come along then.
The group followed Maleficent through the doorway and into the heart of the factory, past a long line of service tunnels and through an open area filled with giant fans.
We call this the fan room,
Maleficent said, winking at the group.
Because if you happen to get caught in here, without a jacket, the fans will help you keep cool. Now, how long? Unless you'd rather do a fiery death.
No, we are coming along.
Good. I'm glad we got that straightened out.
Maleficent said.
Now, let's get to the heart of it.
Suddenly, Jolene gasped.
What is it?
Roxy asked.
The Nightmare Tyrant.
Jolene whispered. Suddenly, in the distance, they heard the wail of the Nightmare Tyrant.
Quickly.
Maleficent said, leading the group through the open area towards a large set of doors.
Into the surface tunnels.
The group ran toward the doors, and ducked through them and into the service tunnels. Through the tunnels, they ran in the direction of the sound of the Nightmare Tyrant's voice. Suddenly, they came upon a large service elevator, floating in the middle of the dark tunnel.
Quickly inside,
Maleficent said, pushing them all inside. The group stumbled into the elevator, and the doors slammed shut. The elevator lurched forward, slowly drifting downwards into the depths of the factory. Jolene leaned against one of the side walls of the elevator, her eyes wide with fear.
It's going to be all right,
said Velma, putting her arm around Jolene.
We're going to get through this.
Suddenly, the elevator jerked to a stop.
What was that?
Jolene asked.
I think we've stopped.
Velma said. She was cut off by the sound of the elevator opening.
quickly into the service tunnel.
Maleficent shouted. The group ran down the tunnel and through another set of heavy wooden doors. They entered the control room of the Wonder Factory. In the middle of the room, hovering above the floor, was the glowing blue shard of Excalibur.
There it is,
said Maleficent. Velma approached the shard tepidly.
I'm going to need a large screwdriver,
she said.
Don't you have something smaller?
asked Roxy.
I don't know any smaller,
Velma said.
I have an 8 1/4. But that might not be wide enough.
I've got a 10 1/2,
said Freddy, rummaging through his backpack.
It has a really long handle. Also, it'll take some doing to get it in there.
How is it that you always seem to have the right tools at the right time?
asked Jolene, staring at Freddy in disbelief.
What?
said Freddy.
We don't have time for this,
said Maleficent.
Let's just get this over with and get out of here.
Velma pried at the shard with the chisel-like end of the screwdriver, working slowly and methodically. The group stood back, nervously watching. The Nightmare Tyrant continued to cackle maniacally in the distance. Finally, the shard came free with a loud cracking sound. A hissing sound could be heard, like the sound of 1,000 snakes slithering across 1,000 stones. Instantly, the shards began screaming in pain, and the entire group jumped backward in fright. Velma leaned down, touching the shard with the stone of Volcar. Instantly, the shard's screaming stopped.
That was scary,
said Roxy, shaking.
The shards are possessed by the Nightmare Tyrant,
said Maleficent.
Excalibur first shattered when he did battle with the goddesses of the sun and the moon. Only a powerful artifact like the Stone of Volcar can dispel his influence.
What's the Stone of Volcar like?
Jolene asked.
It's a strange-looking thing,
said Maleficent, holding the stone up and studying it.
It looks like a ruby,
said Freddy.
It's more like a ruby-like something,
said Maleficent.
It's a ruby.
I told you, rubies are red.
Velma said, taking the stone back.
This is more like a glowing blue stone.
I told you I don't like this place,
said Jolene, huddling closer to the group.
I knew this was a bad idea.
It doesn't matter,
said Velma.
We have to get out of here now.
I'm going to miss my show,
said Roxy wistfully.
It's not your show that's got to be concerned,
Velma said firmly.
It's the rest of us. We're in danger here, not you.
Roxy frowned.
I don't like this place either,
she said.
Then stay in the Wonder Factory,
Velma said.
Stay safe.
No way,
Roxy said.
I'm coming with you. Look, I don't like this place any more than you do. Please, any more is it? You do, please, but we need to stick together.
I guess,
said Velma.
But if you really want to come, at least take the Stone of Volcar with you. We do need someone to protect it in case we fail.
Roxy took the stone from Velma and placed it in one of her compartments.
I'm coming with you,
she said.
Good,
said Maleficent.
We'll need everyone.
It seems we have a deal,
said Roxy.
Let's go,
said Velma. After rescuing them from the dungeons of Castle Oblivion, Bart brought Marge, Homer, Lisa, and Maggie back to his castle in the Lost Realm.
Bart, how did you get the Ring of Solomon back?
Bart's mother asked.
I don't know. I was just lucky, I guess.
Lisa held up her hand, humming to herself as she examined the ring.
Bart trapped the Nightmare King inside here,
she said.
I've felt his power flowing through me ever since I put it on. I don't know if I like the sound of that,
Marge said.
What is his power, exactly? It's hard to explain,
Lisa said.
But I think it's sort of like a virus. A lot of fun to play with, but if you get it in your brain, you'll start to feel really sick.
What are you going to do with the ring?
Homer asked.
Lisa's been chosen to bear it,
Bart said.
You can't be serious.
Homer cried.
She's just a stupid little girl.
Lisa, don't let him talk to you like that,
Marge said.
I don't want to hear anymore.
Lisa said, her face darkening.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to kill you, man.
Bart said, grinning. Lisa raised her hand to her head, pressing her fingers to her temples.
I don't want to fight you, Bart,
she said.
I'm sure you're a nice guy most of the time, but if I wear the Ring of Solomon, I'll never be able to set anybody or anything free. So just go ahead and kill me. I accept my fate.
I don't want to kill you, Lisa,
Bart said, looking down at her with a frown on his face. Lisa gave him a sad smile.
That's too bad,
she said.
I like you.
You're no fun, Lisa,
Bart grumbled, turning away from her. Lisa watched him go, a thoughtful look on her face.
I think,
she said.
I have a plan for world domination.
You don't.
Marge asked. Lisa looked at the ring, and her eyes glistened. She said,
Yes, but I will need the shards of Excalibur.
What?
Homer asked.
Never mind,
Lisa said. A few days later, Lisa put on the Ring of Solomon. Then, she walked up to the edge of the Lost Realm.
Goodbye, Marge,
she said.
Goodbye, Homer. Goodbye, Bart. I'm going to save the world.
Lisa gave a confident, if goofy, smile. She then jumped into the sky, her long blonde hair trailing behind her. In a flash, she was gone. Using the ring's power, she jumped across space and time to the location of one of the shards, the Wool family farm. She reappeared in the sky above the farm, floating over the treetops. As she looked down, she spotted a familiar figure walking towards the farm. Lisa decided to land and approach them.
Hello, Meg,
Lisa said, getting closer to the mysterious figure.
I'm back.
Hello, Lisa.
Meg said.
I'm glad you're here.
What are you doing out here?
Lisa asked. Meg looked back over her shoulder.
Is your family here?
My family is fine, thank you.
Meg said.
I'm helping a lost to find her way home.
A squirrel!
Lisa asked. She followed Meg's gaze and was surprised to see her friend Sandy approaching.
You're with the Fairfield Farms flock of seals.
Yes.
Meg said.
I'm here to pick up a piece of the sword Excalibur.
Lisa said.
Howdy, listen.
Sandy said.
Fancy running into you here.
We've been missing you in school. There.
Meg said.
I've been missing you, too.
Lisa said. Meg blushed. Lisa thought she looked really pretty.
I've been thinking.
Lisa said.
About my father's plan to build a shopping center in Springfield.
No, you haven't.
Meg said.
Yes, I have.
Lisa said. The two girls giggled and talked as they guided Sandy to the farm.
I'm going to go get the piece of Excalibur.
Lisa said.
Do you want to come with me?
I'd love to.
Meg said.
We'll be right back.
Lisa and Meg walked into the woods, the leaves crunching under their boots.
This is really exciting.
Meg said.
Yeah!
Lisa said.
I've never been in the woods before, except that one time and that other time.
I'm glad we decided to do this.
Meg said. Lisa smiled, and the two friends held hands as they continued through the trees, heading towards the pile of rubble where the sword used to be. Meg and Lisa came upon a pile of rocks, where Meg said,
This is it.
Thank you for showing me where it was.
Lisa said. Meg beamed.
Thank you for trusting me.
Lisa picked up a boulder and used it to brush the dirt off the rock. Then she took a deep breath and put on the Ring of Solomon. She smiled as she held the shard.
I'm so excited.
Meg said.
We're going to save the world. I promise I never lose my temper again.
I promise the same to you.
Lisa said. Lisa held the shard of the sword between her fingers and examined it. Through the ring, she was able to sense the immense power hidden within the shard.
Hey, what are you two doing on my farm?
Came a voice from behind them. The girls whirled around to see SpongeBob standing with his hands on his hips.
Hello, Mr. Squarepants.
Lisa said.
I came to get.
You came to steal.
SpongeBob shouted.
I'll never forgive this.
Oh, gosh.
Meg said, blushing. Lisa said, as calmly as she could.
We came to get one shard of the sword Excalibur for our school.
You're lying?
SpongeBob said.
We really came to get it for our dad.
Meg said.
Your dad is a crook.
No, he's not.
Meg said. Lisa sighed.
He wants to build a shopping plaza in Springfield.
I don't give 2 squirts of poodle hair for your feather.
You should.
Lisa said. She held up her hand and the Ring of Solomon glowed. SpongeBob's eyes widened.
Where did you get that?
He asked.
And why does it have so much evil inside it?
I don't know.
Lisa said.
But it's given me the strength to defeat Golly. Isn't that great?
I guess.
SpongeBob said.
But I don't like the guy you're going to fight alongside, the Nightmare King.
Meg asked.
Because he's evil.
Evil can be interesting.
Lisa said.
I mean, look at you and me. We're friends, right?
Sure.
SpongeBob said.
I guess.
Lisa smiled, and then she and Meg walked back to the house. SpongeBob sighed and resigned himself to follow them. When they exited the woods, they found Sandy talking with Applejack.
Sandy, you're alive.
SpongeBob exclaimed.
Of course I am.
Sandy responded.
What did you expect?
I thought you were dead.
A lot of people thought I was dead.
Sandy said.
I was in the prison of the lost until Lisa rescued me.
The prison of the lost. What's that?
Meg asked.
It's where the Nightmare Tyrant kept his prisoners, the lost.
Lisa explained.
Yeah?
Meg said.
That makes sense.
Anyway, your horse is over there.
Sandy said. Lisa and Meg walked over to Applejack.
Are you okay, Meg?
Lisa asked.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Honey.
Meg said. Meg's eyes narrowed as she looked at Applejack. She wondered why she was so mistrusting of the mare. It was nice to see her friend again. Sandy walked up to Applejack and patted her neck.
She's a good mare.
Sandy said.
She deserves a better owner than you.
I know.
SpongeBob said.
I'm sorry, Applejack.
Applejack beamed.
Don't worry about it, SpongeBob. You took me in when I'd lost everything, even my own memory.
Well, I was a filly at the time.
SpongeBob said.
Yeah, a little filly.
Applejack said.
But that don't change nothing. You're still SpongeBob.
Thanks, Applejack.
He said.
I'm sorry I was so harsh to you.
It's okay.
I mean it, Applejack.
I know you do, SpongeBob.
I'm sorry I was such a jerk to you and to the rest of the family as well.
I said it was okay.
Lisa walked over to Meg and said.
So, what do you say? You ready to go?
Meg nodded, and the two of them walked back to the truck.
You the Shard of the Sword, right? Lisa?
Meg asked. Lisa looked in her bag and nodded.
Good.
Meg said.
Wait.
Said SpongeBob.
What are you collecting the shards of Excalibur for?
For our skull.
Meg said.
But how's it going to help anyone?
Lisa shrugged.
I don't know.
She said.
I have no idea. I just feel like we've got to do something to put the world back to right.
Yeah.
Meg said.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I'm with them.
Sandy piped in.
No family, so I can help out anyone who needs, even if they got no money. You're coming with us.
Lisa asked.
Yep, I'm ready.
Sandy said.
Me too.
Applejack said.
Well, I guess that mate's far.
Lisa said.
Anyone else?
SpongeBob considered it. It had been decades since he'd really left the farm. He'd lived a good life though, at least by his standards. He didn't have much to look forward to except maybe getting his family back, and he could do that right here in Springfield. He walked up to Meg and said,
I'm in.
Me too.
Meg said.
Well, that's everyone.
Lisa said as she counted the 5 of them.
Let's go.
Lisa, Meg, Applejack, Sandy, and SpongeBob piled into the truck and drove away. They didn't talk much during the trip. None of them were sure what to say or what they were even heading towards. It didn't really matter. Whenever they got to wherever they were going, they would start again.
So, what's our first order of business?
Applejack asked.
If you want the shards of Excalibur, then we should go after the next Guardian. I was protecting the one, but an old friend of mine is protecting another not too far from here.
Who?
My old pal, Shrek.
SpongeBob said, looking out into the distance.
I can take you to him?
I hope you know what you're doing.
Applejack said.
So do I.
SpongeBob said, his brow darkening. The truck drove on for a long time. They drove through many kinds of terrain. Fields, forests, hills, and even a small river or two. It was late afternoon by the time they reached their destination.
There is.
SpongeBob said, pointing. Lisa and Meg could just barely make it out in the fading light. A giant fortress reached up into the sky.
The Forbidden City.
Meg said.
No, not that.
SpongeBob said, pointing again.
That.
A small tire store sat between them and the Forbidden City.
Well, somebody's gotta guard it, I guess.
Sandy said.
Why not us? We can protect it from the likes of Nightmare Chops.
Gotta start small, you know.
Applejack said.
I mean, we got no training, we got no backup, we got no nothing.
We got us 5 faithful friends.
Sandy said.
I hope Shrek will see us as friends.
SpongeBob said as they drove up.
I mean, he didn't really seem to like me the last time I saw him.
That was 3 years ago.
Applejack said.
If I remember right, he was probably busy protecting his princess.
Yeah, maybe.
SpongeBob said.
I'll talk to him. Don't you worry.
SpongeBob led Lisa, Meg, Sandy, and Applejack into the tire store. He knew Shrek would be keeping the shard there. The counter wallaby was at the front desk per usual, but the store's owner, Wario, stepped out to greet them.
You are back.
He said.
I didn't expect to see you here again for a while, SpongeBob.
Yeah? Well, I could have sworn I saw you at basement.
SpongeBob grumbled.
Oh, I assure you that was not down there.
Well, you could have fooled me. Look at the size of this guy. He's got like 5 of them spitter arms coming out of his head.
That's what I thought.
Well, hey.
SpongeBob continued.
We need to borrow your shard of Excalibur.
I'm sorry, what?
Don't play dummy. I know Shrek hit it here.
I'm not playing dumb.
No, he don't. I can see it in your eyes. Come on, I know you've got it.
How could I have it when Shrek has it?
Well, maybe you could ask him to give it back.
I'm not asking Shrek.
Well, maybe you should be.
Look, if I wanted to ask Shrek for a thing, I would make him give it to me in the first place.
Well, maybe you should try again. Ask him nicely.
Sandy suggested.
I think you've said enough. Were you?
SpongeBob said. Wario immediately took a hostile stance, ready to attack.
Wanna make Shortleg give it to you? You gonna pray?
Yeah, I'll try anything at this point.
Well, that's the spirit.
Ow.
Meg asked, breaking the tension.
Well, let us will just have to ask him.
Wario said, relaxing. Wario then walked over to a display and pulled out a small gun, similar to the one he'd used to shoot the dragon.
Hey, Shrek, I got a question for you.
What?
Shrek asked, entering from a side door.
I was wondering if you could give me the shard you got.
Oh, is that all you want to ask?
Well, I can't think of anything else.
That's disappointing, because I was hoping you'd say something clever.
Like what?
Shrek shrugged.
I don't know. Something witty. You're good at that. I've seen you.
Never mind all that.
SpongeBob said.
Do you have a shard, or haven't ya?
Yeah, I've got it.
Well, then give it to me.
That's the thing.
Shrek said.
I don't want you to have to steal my treasure.
I'm not gonna steal it.
SpongeBob said.
Well, I want you to respect my property.
Hey, if you don't want to share, that's fine. You do you.
No need to be rude.
Okay, you got me.
SpongeBob said, smiling. He then reached into his pocket and withdrew the shards of Excalibur.
Ta-da!
Hey, those are my shards.
When did you get that?
Lisa asked, puzzled.
Never doubt the SpongeBob sleight of hand.
SpongeBob said with a sly wink.
I didn't know you were a magician.
Meg said.
That's not surprising considering you've been hanging out with a rock all your life.
Sandy said.
You've got a point.
Wario added.
He's not a rock. He just lives under one.
SpongeBob said, stuffing the shards back into his pocket.
Well, I'm gonna be off.
Shrek said.
Good doing business with you, boys.
Wait.
Wario exclaimed.
You are not staying for dinner.
No, I don't think I can stomach any more of your cooking.
Really? I usually get a lot of compliments on it.
I'm really not that hungry.
Come on, you gotta get something. It's just me on Rocco Hilmus nights.
Really? I don't feel like it.
Well, I guess you can come to the village later if you feel got to stay.
Sounds good to me.
Meg said.
That's it.
Lisa said.
We got what we came for.
SpongeBob said with a shrug.
Just tell me one thing.
Shrek said.
What are you collecting the shards for? The Nightmare Tyrant's defeated, isn't he?
Seems like it, but you never know. Sometimes the darkness can hide in the light.
Lisa said, looking at the ring on her finger.
I must say, you still surprise me.
Shrek mused.
A little thing like you's been causing big waves.
Lisa smirked.
Better to be the king's enemy than his friend.
I guess so. Whoa.
Shrek responded.
Well, bye-bye.
Lisa said, waving. Shrek watched him leave, an uneasy feeling in his stomach. He felt like something was just unleashed, and he was the one who did it.
I hope I didn't just unleash something terrible.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time with it.
Wario asked.
It's the older generation's problem now.
What's the matter, Shrek?
Rocco asked.
Come on, don't be such a baby.
I'm not.
Shrek sighed.
That's right.
Wario said, rolling his eyes.
You're too tough for that.
I just hope I didn't put us in danger for nothing.
Shrek said.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Wario shrugged. Meanwhile, Lisa, Meg, Applejack, Sandy, and SpongeBob all climbed back into their truck.
Where to now?
Meg asked.
Do you even know where the other shards are?
I know where Excalibur was.
Applejack said.
The location of the final shard of Excalibur is hidden in the depth of the Forbidden Forest. It requires a roll scroll to access.
What the heck is a roll scroll?
Sandy asked.
It's a magical parchment that lets you bypass the usual rules of nature and use magic anywhere.
Meg explained.
That's a lot of power.
Sandy said, shivering.
That's valuable, ain't it?
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Applejack said.
I'm sure there's some pony who would like to get their hoof on that scroll for themselves.
Like who?
Sandy asked.
Well, Spike for one.
Applejack replied.
Is Spike also searching for the shards of Excalibur?
Lisa asked, surprised.
Isn't little lady.
Applejack replied.
I heard Nightmare Torrent Fluttershy tasked him with the quest.
Why would she do that?
Lisa asked, bewildered.
That's a mercenary.
Meg said.
He does whatever he's told.
Whatever.
Sandy said, rolling her eyes.
Yes, we're going to the Forbidden Forest. We don't have a royal scroll.
Lisa reminded them all.
It'll be okay.
Applejack said.
I know a way in.
How?
Lisa asked.
Spike's got a network of magical paths and portals throughout the forest.
Applejack said.
We just gotta follow them.
I still don't see why Fluttershy would send him.
Beats me.
Applejack replied.
Do you know where he is?
Last I heard, he was in the Emerald City.
SpongeBob said.
That was weeks ago, so he could be anywhere by now.
We could go look.
Lisa said.
You heard the lady.
Applejack said.
Follow me and let's go.
Following Applejack's directions, the group drove their truck down a secret path that led directly into the Forbidden Forest. After driving down the path for a few minutes, they turned onto what seemed to be a familiar road.
That's the Swordnair's path.
Meg said, pointing at the sign.
We found it in the maps. Princesses Cadence and Shining Dragon told me about it.
Applejack nodded.
According to the maps, this is the road that leads to the ruins of Castle Never.
They've been there.
Sandy exclaimed.
Man, I've been there.
Applejack smirked.
Good old Spike.
She muttered. They drove down the road, which, according to the sign, was paved in gold. The sun was low in the sky, and its rays painted fiery hues on the clouds. The skies and the sea were almost exactly the same color.
It's beautiful.
Lisa whispered. Applejack turned on a side road, and the group got out of the truck.
Okay.
Applejack put her hooves on her hips.
This is the spot. There should be a hole in the wall.
Like a glory hole.
SpongeBob asked, wiggling his eyebrows.
I can't see anything.
Meg said.
I see it.
Sandy pointed at the wall.
What is that? Looks Looks like a door.
Lisa said.
Applejack, are you sure about this?
Trust me, honey.
Applejack said.
Spike's a professional. I know him.
Applejack put her hoof on the wall and leaned forward. Her face was only a few inches from the wall, which was a good thing because her face was the only thing that would show. Applejack put her head inside the hole and turned to the others.
Okay.
She said.
It's clear on the other side. Follow me and let's go.
Applejack put her hoof on the wall again. She pushed down on it and it opened with a low rumble.
We should close the door.
Meg said nervously.
We'll be fine.
Applejack replied.
It opens out, remember? We go in, close it, turn the wheel, and go out the same way we came in.
I remember the door.
Lisa said. Applejack nodded.
Then let's do it.
Applejack led the group through the door and into the darkness. Just before they stepped through the threshold, Meg turned around and looked at the door. It was a perfect cube, with the numbers and lettering on each side. Meg realized she was holding her breath. Lisa took her hand.
Don't be afraid,
she said.
I'm here.
Meg let out a long sigh of relief and stepped through the doorway. The others quickly joined her.
Well,
Applejack said. Sandy stepped through and the door clicked shut. They found themselves in a circular room, lit by a dozen purple lights in the ceiling. The walls were made of glass and it was filled with the glowing lights of thousands of fish. The fish were of various shapes and sizes, from small blue fish to enormous orange sea monsters with long tentacles. A few tried to escape the room, but the glass kept them contained.
Hello.
Meg called.
Hello.
A deep, rumbling voice came from the darkness beyond the light's glow.
You must be the human girl.
We are.
Meg replied.
You have come to save the world as promised.
The voice continued.
Who are you?
Applejack asked.
I am Zoidberg, the stone-tipped master of the House of Finn. The dweller within Glorfindel and I have come to help you.
Who's Glorfindel?
Meg asked.
The leader of the Elvish race.
Zoidberg replied.
He will decide if you are worthy of his help.
Zoidberg waddled forward until he was inches away from the group. His long purple tongue darted out and licked the air.
How can we trust you?
Lisa asked.
You can't.
Zoidberg said.
But you don't look dangerous.
Meg said.
I'm a friendly guy.
Zoidberg said.
Why are you here?
Meg explained their quest. Zoidberg whistled.
This is a dangerous quest.
We know.
Applejack said.
That's why we're taking your advice.
What do you mean?
Meg asked.
You'll see.
Zoidberg looked around the room, then turned to Meg.
Do you know the way out of here?
Yes.
Meg said.
But I don't know if we can get past Glorfindel.
Glorfindel is a powerful elf.
Zoidberg said.
You made Glorfindel up.
Sandy said.
We didn't see any elves on our way in.
Glorfindel is a real person.
Applejack said.
The most powerful elf alive.
Oh.
Meg said.
Even so, he's not here.
Sandy persisted.
How do we know that the voice is really him? Maybe it's some sort of prank or something.
My dear,
Zoidberg said.
This is my unnatural speaking voice, lovely though it seems.
Oh!
Sandy said in relief. Zoidberg turned back to the group.
We must go to the chamber of the herd. Follow me, if you will.
He waddled away. Sandy, Lisa, and Meg followed him. Applejack lingered in the doorway, still not quite convinced that this wasn't all a dream. She turned around several times before she finally followed them. They emerged from the room into a marble hallway lit by torches, statues and mirrors all along the walls. Zoidberg pointed with one claw to a large egg-shaped door.
That is the chamber of the heart, my dears,
he said.
It is only opened by the most powerful of villains, Glorfindel, or one of his powerful servants. Now follow me.
Lisa, Meg, and Sandy followed Zoidberg down a hall and up a spiral staircase. SpongeBob and Applejack followed close behind. They came to a large room in the center of the tower.
This is the throne room.
Who's throne?
Lisa asked.
It is the throne of King Arthur.
Zoidberg said.
Arthur, King Arthur.
Meg said.
Well, that's a story. That didn't really happen.
That is a story you'll come to realize.
Zoidberg said.
This lobster's full of lies.
Sandy said.
There's no way this was Arthur's throne, and this place has nothing to do with Glorfindel.
Perhaps.
Zoidberg said.
But Arthur is the only other powerful elf alive, thus he has the only real throne.
Sandy whacked Zoidberg on the head.
Oh, it hurt.
You're crazy,
she muttered. Zoidberg led them past the throne, through a door and into a dimly lit room. In the center of the room was a spiral staircase. They climbed this one and emerged in a small room with two doors. Zoidberg opened one and ushered them through.
This is the chamber of the heart,
he said. They stepped through the door and into darkness.
Where's the light?
Lisa asked.
We are in darkness.
Meg said.
I have a flashlight in my backpack.
Sandy said. She fished it out and clicked it on. There was a small, flickering light, and their eyes slowly adjusted. A circular chamber stretched out before them, with a circular room in the middle, a slight glow coming from the walls. In the middle of the chamber was a circular dais, with a raised throne in the center.
It's beautiful,
Lisa said.
Now?
Meg asked.
The door,
Zoidberg said.
It's very important that you close that door behind you.
Why?
I don't know why,
Zoidberg said.
But the door must be closed or you will die.
Great!
Sandy said. So they shut the door.
I don't see any other doors.
Meg said.
What's on the other side of this one?
Nothing.
Zoidberg said.
Just endless darkness.
Is this where the shard is?
Lisa asked. The ring on her finger itched. She wished she could scratch it.
Yes, come along. We must go to the corridor.
Zoidberg waddled over to the door and turned a knob. The seat of the throne opened up and a glass case rose up out of it. Inside the case was a shard of Excalibur.
Well, that's the end of the story.
Applejack said.
Did it ever occur to you that the Nightmare King was just a figment of your imagination?
I guess not.
Lisa said.
But he was real and out to kill you.
Well, yes.
Applejack said.
But that's the beauty of the story. It's all in the reader's mind. I mean, that's what art's all about.
I guess.
Anyway, I just wanted to make the point that the story is all in your head. I only hope it gave you some new ideas. Did it?
Yes!
Lisa said. She reached for the case, lifting it. She grabbed the shard and she felt a pulse of energy flow through her.
Well, don't get too carried away.
SpongeBob said. He was watching her closely.
The Nightmare King is still out there.
Well, what are we waiting for?
Applejack asked.
Come on, let's go kill him.
He's not out there!
Lisa said as she pocketed the shard. She held up her hand bearing the Ring of Solomon.
He's in here!
Lisa, Applejack, and the rest of the group marched out of the tower.
So that's the end of the story.
Meg said.
Well,
Sandy said.
I hope it gave you some more ideas. I certainly enjoyed reading it. Thank you for the great story.
Lisa said.
I cannot wait to write my own story.
Me neither.
Ginny brought Shadow, Anne, and Beatrice back to her home. She hadn't been there since the day she was accidentally brought to Nightfall. Now that the Nightmare Tyrant was defeated, she finally felt safe returning to see her mother. Nora Wakeman had given Ginny a lot of good advice about how to save the world, but she hadn't told Ginny how to save herself. Nora had programmed Ginny with the capacity for love. She programmed her to love her mother, her friends, and, most importantly, herself. Ginny was so happy that she decided to fly home with Shadow and the others. She rang the doorbell, excited to see Nora again.
I'm home, Mom.
Ginny shouted happily. Nora ran to the door and opened it.
It's J9.
She cried, hugging her daughter tightly. She'd missed her so much. Ginny and her mother held each other close.
I'm glad to be home,
Before Nora could say anything, a loud ringing noise erupted from the doorbell.
That's odd.
Nora walked to the front door, her heart pounding.
Hello.
A man's voice came through the door's intercom.
Noah Wakeman.
Yes?
You are the only Noah Wakeman living in this house.
Yes? Liz? Yes, that's me.
Is your daughter Jenny at home?
Yes? I'm Jenny.
Jenny, Lucy was at the door, dear.
Ginny flew off and returned a moment later.
A boy.
A boy?
Nora said, frowning.
He says he's your brother, Michael.
Ginny said nervously.
What?
He says he's your only living brother, Michael. He flew all the way from Australia to see you.
I don't have a brother, Jenny.
Sorry for the lie,
Michael said, entering behind Ginny.
but I figured it was worth the trip.
Nora couldn't believe her ears.
Michael Morbius?
She asked, shocked to see him again. Anne asked.
Michael Morbius, you are the great Morbius. You invented the technology that turned Garfield into a nightmare tyrant.
And myself into a creature of the night.
Morbius admitted.
Garfield's technology saved my life after I crashed on his land of Canth. He gave me my old shape so I could take revenge on his behalf. A nightmare tyrant. I've been trying to destroy him ever since. I am your brother.
Nora looked at Ginny, who was looking at her expectantly. Nora turned back to Morbius.
I don't know what to say,
she whispered.
Say you'll marry me.
Morbius replied. Nora's eyes widened.
Look.
She started to say.
It's the only way I can get back to Earth.
Morbius continued.
This guy's a little weird.
Anne whispered to Beatrice. The bird nodded.
I'm not weird.
Morbius said.
I'm extraordinary.
That may be.
Anne whispered.
But I'm still standing here.
Nora looked at Ginny again. Her daughter was smiling at her expectantly. Nora sighed.
Morbius, why are you really here?
Nora asked.
I know you want to go to Earth, but can't you take anyone else with you? How about your inventions, or your money, or about your field?
Sorry, but I need a wife.
You need help, Morbius, but you wanted it from me.
Nora replied.
I can help?
Anne said quickly.
You don't understand.
Morbius said.
The blood-headed one has stand.
Who?
Anne asked. Nora looked at Morbius. He was looking at her.
The blood-headed one will destroy Earth if I don't get home to help stop her.
Stop who?
Anne asked, her expression one of total incomprehension.
The blood-headed one and the nightmare tyrant.
Morbius replied.
How?
Anne said. Nora turned back to Morbius.
How can you be so that the night tyrant, who you say you've been fighting for 20 years, is more powerful now than he was when you left?
The Nightmare Tyrant is dead.
Beatrice interjected.
We all saw the Nightmare realm collapse.
That was only because of my intervention.
Morbius said.
He's more powerful now. I have reason to believe that he has found a way back to our world. Don't be foolish,
Shadow said.
He's never been here before. The Nightmare Tyrant has many servants.
Morbius said.
Some hidden, some known only to him. One of them was in this very house.
Another.
Nora asked.
No, but if one of his minions is in this house, he might be able to get to Earth. I need to go back. I need you to marry me, Mrs. Wakeman. I need you to go with me.
I can't do that. Morbius.
Nora replied.
I can't abandon this place. All my work here. I have to stay.
I realize that.
Morbius said.
But I love you.
And I love you.
Nora said.
But we can't both go to Earth. One of us has to stay here.
I know.
Morbius said.
I know. But I love you. Love me. I've never met anyone like you before. If I go to Earth, I'll never meet anyone like you again. I'm willing to give up everything for you. Please, I can bear to lose you. Would you be willing to?
Would I be willing to what? Morbius?
Would you marry me without going to Earth?
Nora nodded slowly.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Morbius sighed. He looked at Anne, then at Ginny.
It has to be your choice,
he said.
It can't be my choice.
If you want us to go with you.
Anne began.
No.
Morbius said.
I need to go with my true love.
I can't go with you. We're not getting anywhere.
Nora said in a huff.
Michael, you'll need to give up on Earth. Focus on the healing now.
Nora.
Michael said.
I can't.
I mean it.
Nora snapped. Nora looked at Ginny. Ginny smiled encouragingly.
Okay, then.
Nora said.
If the blood-headed one has stirred, then there's a chance she's awakening. And if the Nightmare Tyrant was defeated, but isn't gone, then we need some way to defeat him should he return.
I have a way.
Morbius said.
You do.
Nora asked.
Yes.
Morbius said.
My machines. If I can get back to them, they can help us stop the Nightmare Tyrant once and for all.
You really think they can help?
Ginny asked.
I don't know.
Nora smiled.
I'll go with you always.
She said.
I'll help you build your machines.
You will.
That's right. Like who?
Nora said.
But no funny business. This is strictly a matter of saving the world.
Of course.
Morbius said solemnly. They looked at each other again, and this time it was they who kissed. Ginny said, looking away. They pulled apart, and Morbius stared at Nora happily, his heart swelling with joy.
That's great.
Anne said sarcastically.
But what should we do now?
What do you mean?
Nora asked.
We can't just go wandering off to another galaxy.
Anne said.
Well, we could build a time machine.
Beatrice said.
Or a portable time machine. That would get us back in a jiffy.
I don't know how we could possibly use them.
Anne said.
Well,
Nora said.
In the original pilot episode of Doctor Who, the Doctor uses one to travel back to the Second War to try to convince the English to join the French in the fight against Napoleon. He doesn't get very far before he runs into the Time Lords. The Time Lords stop him because they are good guys, of course. But maybe we could use the same technology to get to, say, the 21st century.
I don't know. That sounds really dangerous.
Beatrice said.
It'd be really dangerous.
Anne said.
Well, there's no harm trying.
Nora said.
I can't build us some sort of portable time machine.
Anne said.
But I'm still not sure how we can use it.
Well, what about this?
Nora said.
If we go back far enough, we can get the Earth back to the way it was before the Nightmare Tyrant started changing it, when no one was evil and everything was.
Fantastic.
Michael said.
I knew you'd come up with something.
How far back do we need to go?
Ginny asked.
I think I can build it.
You will.
Anne asked.
We're going to go back and fix everything.
Beatrice asked.
That's the plan.
Michael said.
It is.
Anne asked.
But.
Yes.
Michael said.
But we'll need some help from the Time Lords.
The Time Lords?
Shadow asked.
But they're not real.
Yes, they are.
Michael said.
And so are the Daleks. And the Witch King of the Nuns, and the Yeti. They're all real. They were just fictional characters.
So, if we go back in time to when all the characters were made, the Daleks, the Yeti, and the Nerds would all be here to help us, then.
Yes, but we need to go to the right place.
Michael said.
I don't know exactly where that is, but there are clues, so I need to ask the Witch King what we should do next.
Ginny looked at Nora.
Mom? Who's this weirdo? Really?
Nora blushed.
He's...
She began.
I know who he is. Hey.
Shadow interrupted.
But they're not real. Really?
Shadow, how can you say that?
Anne asked.
I mean, I don't know.
Shadow said.
I just can.
What about those other worlds that the Nightmare Tyrant made?
Michael asked.
They were real, aren't they? The worlds he made with his dark magic are real.
Are they?
Anne said.
They would be if anyone believes his lies.
Ginny said.
Okay, we'll figure all this out when we get to the paste.
Michael said.
Michael Morbius, your mind has been darkened.
Shadow said sternly.
You know better than that.
Fine,
Michael said.
but I can't wait to get back to the 21st century. I'll never have to eat Burger King again.
You don't understand.
Nora began, but Anne interrupted her.
I hate Burger King.
Anne said.
I can't believe you ate there when you were my age.
So we were going.
Michael asked. Nora and Anne nodded.
Yes.
Yes.
They all stood there looking at each other. The future held before them. They were going back to stop the Nightmare Tyrant from taking over Earth. They were going to save the universe. It was a daunting, terrible, wonderful task. They were all a year older, more beautiful, more extraordinary than they had been when they were 12 years old. And the future still held more wonder, more terror, more beauty, and more dread. It always would. In the hovercraft, Michael Morbius looked at the sky.
The Nightmare Tyrant.
Michael said.
I can't believe he's real.
He is.
Anne said.
And he'll never be stopped, no matter how hard we try.
We'll see.
Michael said. And they rode the waves of time towards a future that was already coming into being. The first thing they saw when they arrived was the great stone head, staring blankly at them from atop its pillar.
Here it is.
Nora said.
No wonder we couldn't find it.
All my work.
The old man cried.
All my work ruined.
I'm sorry, Father.
Michael said.
That's the Nightmare Tyrant.
The old man said.
That's his head. He's trying to destroy my work.
Stay calm, Father.
Beatrice said. The man looked her up and down.
Why isn't she wearing the hat?
He demanded.
She's not part of our team.
Nora said.
She's just along for the ride.
You were working for him.
The old man cried.
Hush, Father.
Morbius reached for his sword.
I will not.
The old man cried.
We'll return this to you or you'll...
Stop.
Beatrice cried. The old man froze, looking from one of them to another.
There must be some way for you to stop him.
Beatrice said.
You don't understand.
The man said.
He's become Nightmare Tyrant. That's what was needed to open the portal. It's what I needed to create the Nightmare Realm. His head was the key.
Then we take it.
No, we can't.
The man said.
We must.
Beatrice said. The old man glared at her.
You're just a stupid bird.
He said.
We saved the world.
Beatrice said.
And if you don't help us, more worlds will die.
You stupid bird.
The old man said.
Do you have any idea how much power it takes to become Nightmare Tyrant?
We'll figure it out.
Beatrice said.
We have to.
I can't take him.
Nora said.
We can just leave him here.
Michael said.
He'll be killed.
We have no choice.
Nora said. Michael hesitated. Then he walked over to the head.
Take this.
He said, lifting the head. Michael turned to the old man.
We'll return it to you in a moment.
I should never have created him.
The old man said, looking at the stone head.
I should never have awakened him.
You couldn't have stopped him.
Michael said.
Maybe I should have tried.
The old man said.
Maybe I should have tried harder.
Michael said nothing. He could see the despair in his old friend's eyes.
Michael, please.
Come on.
Michael said, turning away from the old man.
No.
The old man whispered.
Wait, what are we going to do with his head?
We are going to destroy.
Michael said.
Destroy.
The old man cried.
You can't destroy it. Only the Nightmare Tyrant can destroy it.
I guess we'll have to be rid of it.
Michael said.
Wait, why do you want to take it?
For a moment, Michael wanted to tell him the truth, but then he thought of all the other worlds that were already lost. The truth wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to justify this.
We're not murderers.
The old man shouted.
No.
Michael said.
We're just opportunists.
I can't leave him like that.
The old man cried.
You have to.
Michael said.
I can't.
Michael disappeared with the head, leaving the old man sobbing. Nora and Ginny looked around at the others awkwardly.
We should go.
Ginny said.
We can drop him off at the fort once we're done.
That's actually a pretty good idea.
Nora said.
Thanks for suggesting it, Jenny.
No problem.
So they dropped the old man off at the fort before returning to their own time. When they returned home, they saw that nothing had changed.
Michael must have failed.
Nora said, shaking her head.
We need to try again. We need to think of the very thing we didn't think of before.
Should we just go back to the past and try again?
Ginny asked.
No, we should focus on the present.
Beatrice said.
The past is the past. Meddling with it too much will only cause more problems.
I still say we should go back and try once more.
Anne said.
We might not have a choice. We might not have a future. We might not have a past.
But at least we'll have each other.
Ginny said with a smile.
And that's all that really matters.
Anne said, smiling back. And together they set off on their journey into the far future. Spike furrowed his brow as he led Velma, Roxy, Jolene, and Maleficent through the woods. He could sense that someone had triggered his defenses along the Sword and Airs path in the Forbidden Forest, but he couldn't tell who it was. He could only hope that they were allies.
Are we close?
Roxy asked.
Where is this witch anyway?
Her cage should be nearby.
Maleficent replied.
It's been many years since I last visited her. But she's not the type to move.
I hate cottages.
Roxy grumbled.
They are like hobbit houses, all cut and you ain't. They make me want to throw up.
You know, I find them rather cozy.
Jolene commented. Roxy blushed.
I mean, they are not too durable,
she said bashfully. She was still afraid that Jolene harbored resentment towards her for failing to protect her as a child. Jolene, however, chose to ignore this comment and instead asked,
So where is the Stone of Volcari? I don't see it anywhere.
I have it here. No need to fret.
Maleficent replied, showing Jolene the stone.
All right.
Jolene said, her brow damp with sweat.
Let's get this over with, then. I want to go home.
The witch's cottage soon appeared through the trees. It was an ancient, weathered building, with an overactive chicken coop and a vegetable garden.
It looks like a cross between a hobbit house and a Muppet village,
Roxy muttered.
The Bat Witch is an old friend. So be nice,
Maleficent said.
She guards one of the shards of Excalibur. But she won't hand it over if you are rude to her.
That's the spirit,
Roxy cheered.
I take it back, old friend.
They walked up to the door of the cottage, which opened with a creak.
Good evening, friends,
the witch said, her green face breaking into a toothy grin.
Come in.
The group entered her home, and inside it seemed much nicer than it had on the outside. A young girl with pink hair was preparing lemonade as the Bat Witch ushered them in.
I saw you coming a mile away, and I couldn't be happy,
she said, her eyes darting about.
I've got some lovely lemonade, freshly made. What can I do for you?
We'd like to get the shard of Excalibur. Please,
Maleficent said, pointing to the back of the house.
Straight to the point. I see you. You always were terrible with niceties, Maleficent,
the witch said.
Come into the living room. I've got a nice glass of ice water with a lemon slice waiting for you. I imagine you're thirsty after your long journey.
I'm rather parched,
Jolene said, looking to Maleficent hopefully.
Then I shall refresh you,
the witch replied, pulling a glass bottle from the fridge and pouring the clear liquid into the crystal water.
There, now, much more pleasant, is it not?
It most certainly is,
Maleficent said, her voice dry and parched. Jolene and Roxy followed suit. Spike and Velma watched as the others drank the refreshing liquid. Spike recognized the girl pouring the drink from Ponyville, but he decided to say nothing.
Now, come with me,
the witch said, leading them into the living room. Inside they found a large wooden table, upon which sat a map and several small statues.
I followed your battle with the Nightmare Tyrant using this,
she said, gesturing to the table.
Magic figures, you see. I was really quite impressed. I didn't think you'd succeed.
I'm just glad you helped,
Maleficent said.
I'd be glad to help you more in the future,
the witch replied.
Returning Daphne's wand was a small matter. I'd held on to it just for her.
That's what I call hospitality.
Spike roared, smacking his lips. He decided to try the lemonade after all.
That's what I call a good drink.
Now then,
the witch said, tapping the table with her finger.
Let's find your Excalibur. Shall we? I think I know where it is. I really do.
She pointed to a small island on the eastern edge of the map.
Is that it?
Roxy asked, reading over Maleficent's shoulder.
It doesn't seem hard.
That island is quite small,
the witch said,
but the hilt of the sword should be there. If you gather all of the shards, placing them with the hilt and the stone of Volca should, well, I don't really know. But in theory, it should restore the blade to its true glory.
I'm impressed, old friend.
Spike cheered, clapping his hands together.
I am impressed.
I'd be more impressed if we actually had the thing,
Velma said.
Yes.
Spike said.
I suppose you're right.
So do we have a deal?
The witch asked.
We do.
Spike roared.
Now, I must warn you,
the witch continued.
I keep my promises. I give you my word as a lady, I will return all the shards of Excalibur. Should you return them to me once, your quest is complete.
I think that would be a problem,
Spike said.
Once the Nightmare Tyrant is gone for good, Fluttershy should have no use for the sword. There's one thing that troubles me, Thaw.
Oh, what's that?
The witch asked.
We're not actually going to go retrieve the shards, are we?
Velma said. Spike looked at her, his face grim.
Oh, you sensed the others, did you?
The witch asked.
Well, I didn't think of that. How unfortunate.
But you said we would.
Velma said, confused.
I don't know, but someone has already retrieved a few shards.
Spike said.
I could sense it when they entered the Forbidden Forest.
So,
Jolene asked, putting the shard in her pocket.
Can't we just beat them up and take them?
This shouldn't be necessary,
the Bat Witch said.
It's true that you're not the only group collecting the shards, but those others you sense are friends of yours.
Do you know who they are?
Spike asked.
I can guess,
the witch said.
Let me think for a moment.
Guys, we need to go.
Roxy said.
We don't have time to be. Could be. Pivine.
Crap.
Velma said, standing up.
I don't suppose you could speed things up.
Of course not,
the witch said.
I'm enjoying your company too much.
Then we better get going,
Spike said.
I'm afraid you'll have to go without me,
she continued.
I just don't know what I could do to help you. I suggest you not breathe too heavily on my wisdom, lest you be disappointed.
Like you failed to help us earlier.
I didn't fail to help you.
You didn't help us. You let us get beaten down by that nightmare torrent.
I did not.
Yes, you did.
Just because I didn't join you on the battlefield doesn't mean I didn't help.
Spike. The Butt Witch helped more than you now.
Maleficent said.
She probably did.
Spike said.
But just remember, no matter how much she helps, she's still just a stupid witch.
Indeed she is.
The witch cooed.
But she's a stupid witch who can get you what you need.
Yeah, whatever.
Spike said.
Let's go, fella.
I'm here.
I really hope we're not returning these shirts to some kind of evil witch doctor.
The Butt Witch looked to Maleficent with a grin.
These are quite the rude friends you brought with you, my dear.
I know, right.
Now, I do have a warning for you and your friends.
Yeah.
I don't like people who steal.
Oh, really?
Spike said. The witch glanced at Jolene. She gulped and then took the shard out from her pocket.
I thought you had noticed.
I did plan to give you the shard, but you shouldn't take what hasn't yet been offered.
The witch said, taking the shard from her.
Now, I'll return this to you, and then I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave this place. But I warn you, I'm not fond of being lied to. If you lie to me, I will find out, and I will make you regret it.
Oh, we won't.
Spike said.
We're just borrowing it.
I see. Well, if you change your mind, you know where to find me.
Do we really need to go through this rigmarole every time?
Spike asked.
I'm afraid so.
The witch said, grinning once more.
Then let's get going.
Maleficent said.
Yeah, we don't want to keep the nightmare tyrant waiting.
Indeed.
The witch said, smiling as the group exited her cottage. As they passed through the forest, Spike noticed something he had been meaning to ask.
What happened to your foot?
What?
Jolene asked, staring down at her foot.
Your foot?
Spike said, pointing.
You seem to have something wrapped around it.
Jolene reached down and felt around her ankle.
Oh, that's just. It's a little sore. I fell and sprained it, so I'm walking it off.
I thought you said you were a witch.
Spike said.
I'm not a witch, I'm a water adept.
Jolene explained.
So I can cast some minor spells to accelerate the healing of my minor injuries.
You can do that?
Spike asked.
How? Just by thinking about it.
Jolene said.
It's like stepping a step in the process of healing.
So if I walk faster, it won't take as long to get to our destination.
Exactly, so walk faster.
That's cheating?
Spike said.
No.
Jolene said.
It's not. It's just magic.
Fine, cheater. Let's see you do some magic now.
Fine.
Jolene said.
Just don't get mad or anything when I curse your dreams, okay?
Jolene closed her eyes and went into deep thought. Spike began to wonder if she was thinking too hard, and perhaps that would cause her to trip up and ruin the whole process. Jolene took a deep breath, and then started chanting some kind of incantation. Spike watched in amazement as the ground around them began to liquefy. Within mere seconds, Jolene's foot was completely healed.
See?
Jolene asked.
It just takes a little effort.
I don't know how you do that.
Spike said.
That was amazing.
It's just a matter of practice.
Jolene said as she began to pick up her pace once again.
My father had all kinds of wizards, warlocks, and spellcasters teach me when I was young before.
Roxy winced, knowing Jolene was looking back at her lowest moment. The moment she betrayed Jolene's father, and ultimately allowed the Emerald City to fall. The moment she became the first Emerald Garden ever to become one of the lost.
I am sorry.
Roxy said, not for the first time.
I didn't mean for any of that to happen.
It's not your fault.
Jolene said.
Not really.
I know, but I could have done something. I could have saved him. I could have saved us all.
You weren't strong enough to fight the Nightmare Tyrant.
Jolene said dismissively.
None of us were.
I'm different.
Roxy said.
I can do things. I wish I could have saved him.
Jolene sighed. She was tired of hearing Roxy apologize. She reached out and gave Roxy a hug. Roxy reciprocated, and the two began crying together.
Hey, hey.
I am sorry.
Roxy repeated.
I could have done more. I could have done a better job.
It's all right, my dear.
Jolene said.
It may not have been by your choice, but we are still here, and that's something, I suppose.
Yeah.
Roxy said, wiping her eyes.
It is.
The group walked in silence the rest of the way, each lost in their own thoughts. By the time they reached the shoreline, night had fallen, and the first stars had begun to appear in the sky.
Well, this is it.
Spike said. The island the witch had shown them glittered in the distance, shimmering on the water's surface.
Are you ready for this, girls?
More than ready.
Velma said.
Let's do it.
We're not going in the water yet, are we?
Roxy asked nervously.
I don't do well in water.
And we don't have our suits.
Jolene added.
We'll need him.
Spike said. He looked to Maleficent, who nodded. She stepped forward, spreading her arms. Her staff glowed, and the stone of Volcar floated in front of her, suspended in the air. The water parted, creating a dry path from the shoreline to the island.
Let's find those shards,
she said. Without another word, the group began walking towards the island. Spike was leading this quest, with the fate of the world resting in his hands. No pressure. They reached the island, and Spike began to look around. He saw 2 paths off to the side, and what looked to be an abandoned camp at the opposite end. He chose the path nearest the abandoned camp, figuring the shards would be close by.
Are you sure this is the path?
Jolene asked.
Won't we get lost?
It's the only trail we're gonna find. Trust me.
Spike said.
Come on.
He began walking down the pathway. Maleficent matched his pace, followed by Velma, with Roxy and Jolene bringing up the rear.
What if we run into a mountain lion?
Velma asked nervously.
On an island.
Jolene asked.
Yeah, on an Iceland.
Velma said.
I think I saw 3 mountain lions in the Wizard of Oz.
You just relax.
Spike said.
This place is all magic, so the beasts of the island stay on the island. I've never seen a lion on this world, let alone on an island.
Velma sighed. She should have been unconvinced by this statement, but she wasn't, and she knew this.
I still don't like mountain lions.
Well, that's your problem. Not mine.
Spike said.
I thought you said this place was all magic.
Velma said.
Did I say that?
Will ye?
Well, must be a loophole or something. This land is magic, but so are we. And we're not lions.
What a load of baloney.
Jolene said.
Just because I'm an adept doesn't mean I'm immune to vicious, man-eating lions.
I'm just saying, we're not lions.
Spike repeated.
Yeah.
Jolene said.
Thank goodness for that.
They walked the rest of the way in silence.
Look.
Velma said after a few minutes.
It's the shards.
The group stopped in their tracks.
Well, do.
Spike looked where Velma was looking, just in time to see the reflection of the full moon in the water. The moon's reflection was over the eastern edge of the island, and the water looked like a path leading to it.
Come on.
Spike said, running down the pathway. The rest of the group caught up, and together they began running down the path. They were almost to the water's edge when 3 figures stepped out in the path before them.
That's far enough.
The tallest of the figures said. She was a powerful woman with a fierce look on her face. She held a bow and a quiver of arrows at her side.
What do you want with the shards of Excalibur? The shards of... You... Shards...
To destroy the Nightmare Turret once and for all.
Spike said simply.
You have no idea what you're getting yourself into, do you?
The woman asked.
Well, if you think about it, we don't have much choice in the matter.
Spike said. He looked over at the other 2 figures standing behind the woman and saw they were his friends from the SSS.
I thought the SSS was out of the picture.
He said.
We're here to help.
The SSS adept said.
And to give our life if necessary. Well, willing to give my life if necessary. He's right.
The first adept said.
We're not gonna let some demon or take over the world.
I guess that settles it.
Spike said.
We need your help. And we're not leaving this island without Excalibur shards.
Fine.
The woman said.
I'll get the shards for you.
Hey.
Velma said.
You're not gonna give us the easy part, are you?
What do you want the shards for? Anyway.
Spike asked.
What about you?
Replied the woman.
To form a sword, you couldn't handle one of those.
No, we've got an army of them.
Jolene said, tapping her forehead.
To smash Nightmare Turret.
Velma said.
Queen Fluttershy tasked us personally with the quest.
The woman turned to look at Queen Fluttershy's letter, hanging from a branch of tree on the cliffside.
Well, I still don't see why I'd be involved in this.
We don't know what it is exactly.
Velma said.
But maybe if you helped us, we could find out.
Maybe.
The woman said thoughtfully.
I'll go get the shards.
Good.
Spike said.
Since you know the island, I'll let you 3 find the shards.
Well, I guess that settles everything.
The woman said. She turned and walked up the steps into the temple.
Let's go.
The SSS adept said. The group began running up the steps after the woman, who had already disappeared inside. Spike, Velma, Roxy, Jolene, and Maleficent followed the woman and her 2 SSS adepts into the temple. They ran up the steps and through the temple. They passed through a giant chamber with a pool of water and many statues, then into a large circular room with yet more statues. There was something odd about the way they were made, something familiar. Velma stopped in her tracks.
It's the Room of Requests.
She said.
What?
Jolene said.
The Room of Requests.
Velma repeated.
In Lord Lovegood's house, there's a room with a lot of weird statues in it.
Oh? You mean this one?
Roxy said, pointing at the statue in front of them. It was a statue of a cat with glowing red eyes.
The Room of Requests was empty.
Velma said, bewildered.
These are the exact statues.
Maybe it's a trap.
Maleficent said.
Maybe we should go back, Shook.
Perhaps we should.
Jolene replied worriedly. The woman stopped and turned to them.
Don't listen to her.
She said.
She's just trying to scare you.
I am never scared of a challenge.
Velma said, raising her chin.
Come along. Then, let's get on with the business of destroying Nightmare Turret.
The woman led the group through a set of passageways and into a circular room lined with shelves. There were thousands of artifacts on the shelves, all carved from stone, wood, metal, and crystal.
This is the treasure chest of King Arthur's sword.
The woman pointed at a large flat stone sitting on a table.
That must be the Stone of Volcar.
Roxy said.
Perhaps Excalibur shard?
Spike murmured.
I wonder how you get them all together.
Jolene mused.
I suppose we'll find out.
Maleficent said.
Well, don't just stand there.
Velma said.
Get to work.
The SSS adepts walked over to the table while Velma, Jolene, and Roxy rushed over to the stone. Roxy picked the stone up and examined it.
This is the Stone of Volcar,
she said.
Another one.
Maleficent asked.
How many stones did Volcar have?
I don't know.
Roxy replied.
It's just Volcar's name. It's a word name, isn't it?
I suppose.
Maleficent said.
I'm going to go check on the others.
Jolene said, setting the stone down.
Come on.
Velma said, picking up the stone and hurrying after Jolene. The SSS adepts walked swiftly away from the group towards the back of the room, passing by the shelves of artifacts. Spike walked over to the table, sitting down on a bench. He picked up a golden chalice sitting on the table and scrutinized the cup.
It's beautiful.
He lifted it to his lips, sipping at it.
What is it supposed to be, Excalibur shard?
It's possible.
Velma replied.
It's all we need to find out.
I hope so.
Spike said.
I'm not spoiling anything.
Roxy said.
I am going back to help.
Good idea.
Velma said.
Stay safe.
Don't worry about me.
Roxy said, grinning.
I'll kill you.
Roxy caught up with the mysterious trio. They were gathered around the table.
I didn't catch your name,
she said. The woman looked up.
My name's Cammy. This is Skate. And this is Pump.
Nice to meet you.
Roxy said, smiling.
Yes.
Isn't that the name of a human river in California?
Yes, that's right.
It's a nice name.
Roxy said.
I used to go swimming in it every summer.
I like rivers.
Skid said. Cammy put her hands on the flat stone and opened it like a chest. Inside were 3 shards of Excalibur.
Here they are.
Cammy cried, holding up the shards. The SSS adepts rushed forward, grabbing the shards and examining them closely. Roxy whistled.
They're even more beautiful up close.
You're not just saying that.
Cammy asked.
Maybe.
Roxy said.
But I'm just being polite.
Skid, a young man in a skeleton costume, placed Excalibur shards into a golden bag.
Is that it?
Roxy asked.
We beat the first. West.
We did.
Jolene replied.
Now, on to the next.
Velma said. The group began to head for the door.
Excuse me.
Roxy said.
But I don't suppose you could tell me anything about Nightmare Turret.
The Nightmare Turret.
Skid asked.
What do you mean?
I was just wondering who he was. He's not a pony, is he? I mean, he's got no wings or anything like that.
No.
Skid said.
He's a cat, I think.
Well, that's odd.
Roxy said.
Why should a wolf like me be afraid of a little cat?
You're not afraid of anything, are you?
Cammy said.
Afraid? Afraid of what?
Roxy asked, puzzled.
Nothing.
Cammy said, smiling. They met up with Spike and Maleficent outside of the chamber.
Are we ready to go?
Jolene asked.
We should get as far away from this place as possible.
Good point.
Spike said.
Good luck.
Velma said, placing some magic item into her palm. She closed her eyes, and a purple spark flew from her palm and engulfed the group, protecting them from harm.
Thanks.
Cammy said.
Can we trust you with these shards?
Yes, I promise.
Velma said.
We need to keep these shards safe. The Nightmare Turret is after us.
Well, thank you for the warning.
Roxy said.
I'm sure Fluttershy can keep him at bay for a while yet.
Spike said.
Come on.
Jolene said.
Let's go.
They began to walk out of the temple, walking through the massive stone doorway and into the sunlight.
We did it.
Cammy said.
We beat this Nightmare Tyrant.
We did.
Jolene said.
We will.
Cammy said.
Until we beat him that time.
What will you 3 do now?
Jolene asked Cammy.
Well, it's pretty obvious.
She replied.
We beat him, so we're going home.
Jolene sighed.
So we go back to living the same boring lives.
You mean we go live the same exciting lives?
Cammy said.
We haven't beaten him yet.
Spike said.
Someone else still has the remaining shards.
Yeah.
Cammy said.
We should go find them.
We'll help.
Skid said.
But how?
Roxy asked.
We will meet them at the point of restoration.
Maleficent said.
We will have to hash out who owns the sword when we meet them there.
The point of restoration.
Roxy asked.
Why there?
That's where Nightmare Tyrant attacked the first time.
Jolene explained.
And that's where we'll be waiting for them.
It's the only place where Excalibur can be reforged properly.
Maleficent said.
The point where it was shattered. When the world descended into chaos and fear.
I guess that means we find the shards. Find the Nightmare Tyrant and slay him.
Roxy said.
And help we meet up with the other adepts on the way.
I'm in.
Cammy said.
Me too.
Skid said.
Going to.
Pump said.
I'm in.
Jolene said.
I'm a little disappointed that I'm the last to know, but I suppose I can bear it.
Velma said. The group traveled together back to the mainland.
I've lived a full life.
Roxy said.
I don't know. I don't know what I was afraid of.
I think I do.
Maleficent said.
I think I was afraid of death.
I think there's a reason why I'm not a vampire.
Jolene said.
I was definitely afraid of death.
But we're not afraid of death anymore.
Cammy said.
We can face it head on.
I know.
And we can face anything.
Cammy added. After arriving at the beach, they saw a ship approaching from the horizon.
That's the Dawn Trader.
Cammy said.
I recognize the flag.
The ship sailed into the bay, carrying the remaining shards of Excalibur.
How convenient.
Cammy said.
So much for meeting at the point of restoration.
Maleficent sighed.
Do you suppose the rest of the crew knows we're here too?
Roxy asked.
Probably.
Cammy replied.
We'll just have to take that ship.
Cammy.
Jolene said.
I think you should go with the others. I don't want you getting any closer to that ship.
Why?
Cammy asked.
Because I'm worried about you.
But you trust me with the shards.
I trust you with the shards, but I'm still worried about you.
Jolene said.
You don't know who's on that ship.
I think I do.
Spike said.
I feel a familiar presence.
That's impossible.
Jolene said.
There's no one like you on that ship.
Spike looked at Jolene and he could see the sadness in her eyes. He understood. He walked away from her to the edge of the beach. His suspicions were confirmed when SpongeBob leaned over the helm of the ship.
Ow! Me teeth.
He shouted down, waving. Spike smiled and shook his head.
This is a familiar sight.
He sighed. The Dawn Trader sailed closer, and the group could see several familiar faces on deck.
Is that Lisa?
Roxy asked.
No, it can't be.
Jolene said.
It is.
Cammy said.
I met her during my...
You did.
Jolene asked.
Here.
Cammy said.
I met her on the way to Neverland.
She must have thought you were someone important.
Jolene said. The ship came to a rest and SpongeBob, Sandy, Meg, Lisa, and Applejack all exited onto the beach.
How'd you get your hands on the Dawn Trader?
Spike asked, greeting SpongeBob with a firm handshake. SpongeBob said.
It's a long story. Perhaps I shall regale you with it another time. For now, I believe you're also searching for these.
He held up one of the shards of Excalibur.
Yes, but why are you collecting them?
Spike asked.
It was her idea.
SpongeBob said, gesturing to Lisa. Spike's eyes met Lisa's, and they both quickly looked away.
I realized
Lisa said.
that the world needed Excalibur once again. I was compelled to gather the shards.
And I knew
Applejack said.
that if I had a chance to take the shards from the Nightmare Turret, I would do everything I could to stop him.
Lisa fiddled with the ring on her finger.
Yes, Nightmare Turret.
Are you going to tell us where he is?
Applejack asked.
She's not.
Spike said.
We were worried about that earlier. She's still holding out on us.
Lisa looked around nervously.
But the Nightmare Turret is in Queen Fluttershy's mindscape.
She said.
We all know that.
But what we don't know is how that ring is affecting you.
Maleficent said, stepping forward.
That is the Ring of Solomon, and I can feel it from here. You trapped the Nightmare King in there. Didn't, child?
No, Mother.
Lisa said, looking her straight in the eye. Her voice dropped in pitch, sounding just like the Nightmare King.
I'm trapped in here. She's trapped with me.
A black, shadowy hand burst from Lisa's ring, grabbing the shards from both groups.
No!
Cammy screamed.
They've taken the shards from us.
Looking at the night.
Lisa cackled. She flew into the sky, escaping with the shards.
Where's she going?
Meg asked, astonished.
The Nightmare King will take the shards to the point of restoration.
Maleficent said.
He manipulated her into collecting them. Only Excalibur could break the Ring of Solomon and set him free.
Oh, come on.
Roxy shouted, running after Lisa.
I want to turn too.
Roxy, come back.
Jolene shouted.
You don't know what you're doing. She's not like us.
She's just a scared little girl.
Roxy yelled, catching up to Lisa in the sky.
She's not a hero. She's not a worry. She's nothing.
What's wrong with you?
Lisa asked, staring down at Roxy with contempt.
You're only the real bunny.
How am I a wolf?
Roxy replied, grabbing Lisa's arm.
You're hurting me, you're hurting me.
Lisa flew away from Roxy, leaving the wolf in the dust.
She's crying.
Cammy cried.
Maleficent, do you know where the point of restoration is?
Jolene asked.
Of course.
Maleficent replied.
Then combine your magic with mine.
Jolene said.
I can teleport us there, and we can cut her off.
No!
Cammy said, grabbing Jolene's shoulder.
You can't go after her. You will be too weak, and I won't let her hurt you.
This is our duty.
Jolene said.
I swore an oath to protect my people, and that means keeping the Nightmare King from getting free.
We're with you.
Applejack said.
Where with you two?
Sandy said, placing a hand on Cammy's shoulder.
Then we are going after her.
Jolene said.
I'm coming with you.
Roxy said, landing back on the beach. Spike, Applejack, Sandy, Roxy, and Cammy gathered around Maleficent and Jolene, while the others got on the Dawn Treader.
We'll meet you back at Queen Fluttershy's palace.
Velma shouted to Spike.
You'd better still be alive and have Excalibur with you.
You can count on us,
Spike replied, before the group vanished in a flash of blue and green light.
Well, I guess that's that.
Velma said.
Let's go, kids.
The group sailed off on the Dawn Treader, looking out to the horizon. Meanwhile, miles away, Jolene's group reappeared in a massive crater. This was the point of restoration, the point of shattering, where the Nightmare Tyrant had shattered Excalibur years ago, the spot where Volcar had died. The earth itself had shattered with it, leaving great cracks in the ground.
Now what?
Sandy asked.
Well?
Cammy said, pointing. Lisa could be seen flying towards them.
We greet her.
No, we don't.
Jolene said.
Lisa, stop. I know you don't want to hurt us. Stop, and we'll let you go.
Lisa's voice was not her own, but it was a voice the group knew all too well.
You can't stop. You'll stop me.
Lisa flew in, her eyes filled with malice. She grabbed Jolene, lifting her into the air and smashing her against a wall of rock.
Lisa!
Sandy shouted, firing a bolt of lightning from her hand, blasting Lisa in the face. Lisa howled in pain, releasing Jolene and flying away.
Cammy, shoot her!
Cammy aimed her bow at Lisa as she floated above them.
Stop, please, stop.
Jolene pleaded.
Lisa, I'm begging you.
Lisa!
Sandy shouted, firing another lightning bolt.
I'm going to blast you into nothingness, you monster!
Lisa flew in, grabbing Sandy and lifting her into the air. Sandy screamed in terror before Lisa dropped her and the squirrel smashed into the ground.
I'm not going to let you hurt any of my friends.
Cammy shouted, aiming her bow at Lisa.
No, please, no.
Jolene cried, putting her hands over her head. Lisa laughed, pointing her fingers at Cammy.
You think you can stop me, you?
I know I can.
Cammy shouted, firing an arrow at Lisa. Lisa laughed, grabbing the arrow and crushing it.
Cammy!
Roxy shouted, firing a burst of magic at Lisa, which she quickly sidestepped.
Lisa, stop this!
Sandy cried.
Lisa, you're a monster, don't you know that?
Lisa grabbed Sandy and lifted her into the air, holding her in the palm of her hand.
Lisa, stop this, let her go.
Jolene cried. Lisa threw Sandy down to the ground where she smashed into the dirt.
Lisa, please stop this!
Sandy cried, crawling away from Lisa.
No, Lisa, don't.
Jolene cried.
Please, Lisa, don't.
Lisa laughed, pointing her finger at the group.
You think you can stop me, you?
Lisa, stop this!
Sandy begged.
Please. I'll do whatever you want.
Anything at all.
Cammy shouted. Lisa laughed.
You're too late. I get what I want.
Lisa grabbed Jolene, lifting her into the air.
Lisa, please.
Jolene cried. Lisa raised Jolene into the air and slammed her against the wall of rock, knocking her unconscious.
Lisa, no.
Cammy cried, aiming her bow at Lisa.
I don't want to kill you.
Cammy shouted.
I want you to get away from my friends.
Lisa grabbed Cammy, lifting her into the air with one hand and crushing her against the wall of rock with the other.
Lisa, please stop this! Let her go!
Sandy begged. Maleficent slammed her staff into the ground. Emerald flames billowed from her as she cried.
By the power of the evil queen, I commend you to stop this atrocity.
Lisa smirked, pointing a finger at Maleficent.
You don't command me, Fairy.
Maleficent looked at the Nightmare King's vessel with fear and hatred.
By the power of the evil queen, I will not let you do this.
You have no power here.
Lisa laughed.
Lisa, you're a nightmare.
Cammy shouted.
You're not real. You can't hurt us.
Lisa laughed.
We'll see about that.
Lisa tossed Cammy around like a rag doll before throwing her to the ground and standing on her throat.
Lisa, please stop this!
Sandy begged. Maleficent knew there was no getting through to Lisa. The Nightmare King's grip on her mind was too strong. She knew there was only one way to put an end to this.
Oh, if you're in there, I'm going to end this.
Maleficent said coldly.
That's how you see we're going to kill me, really?
Lisa asked.
I lied.
Maleficent said. Lisa's eyes widened in shock. She looked to Maleficent as her voice softened to her own.
You're going to kill me!
Lisa asked.
You're going in my life!
I'm sorry, but use.
Maleficent said.
No.
Lisa cried, putting her hands over her ears.
Lisa, listen to me.
Maleficent shouted.
You must take off the Ring of Solomon.
Take it off! I can't!
Lisa cried.
You must.
I can't!
Lisa, don't you understand? Take it off, and you will be free to live your life.
Lisa shook her head.
No! I can't!
Lisa raised her hands to her head, looking as though she was about to throw up.
You have to!
That was when Applejack's lasso latched onto Lisa's ankle, holding her in place. Lisa looked down at the lasso, her eyes widening.
Lisa, if you don't take off the Ring of Solomon, I'm going to have to kill you.
Maleficent said.
Do you understand? I will have no other choice.
No.
Lisa cried.
I can take it from here.
Came a voice from above. Maleficent glanced up, spying a pale figure flying towards them. Roxy shook her head in disbelief.
Morbius.
She cried.
I heard the summons.
Morbius said, landing in front of Maleficent and grabbing her shoulders.
I heard you calling to me and I came as fast as I could.
Nobody called to you,
Maleficent said, confused.
I was pulled across time and space to this exact moment.
Morbius continued.
If you didn't call to me, then why am I here?
You are not supposed to be here.
Maleficent shouted.
Nobody is supposed to be here.
Morbius turned, looking to Lisa struggling with Applejack's lasso. His eyes narrowed as he saw the ring she wore.
Lisa,
he said.
What is that?
It's a ring of Solomon.
Lisa cried, her eyes wild.
It's mine. I found it.
That ring houses a mighty evil.
Morbius said, floating towards her.
What does it do?
Lisa's eyes were wild with fear.
It made me a nightmare.
She cried.
You're not a nightmare.
Morbius took her hand, grabbing the ring. He cried out in pain as dark energy erupted from it, fighting against him. He gasped, falling to his knees.
You're not a nightmare,
he cried.
You're a child and you're trapped in a nightmare.
Lisa shook her head.
I can't get free.
You must,
Morbius said.
Your soul is not doomed to darkness. I saw what I saw, and I know what I know, and you must be freed.
Freed?
Give me your hand, Lisa.
Morbius pleaded. Lisa's eyes widened.
I can't give it to you. I don't want to go back.
Spike called out to her from the ground.
You have to. Give him your hand.
No, I don't want to go back.
Do you want to live or die?
Spike yelled.
I want to.
Lisa stammered.
I want to live.
Lisa grabbed Morbius's hand, and reality warped around them. They found themselves back on the astral plane. Maleficent looked around, confused. She frowned.
Where are we?
She asked.
You are in the Nightmare Realm,
Spike said, standing up.
But where's the Nightmare Tyrant?
The Nightmare Tyrant was banished,
Maleficent said, staring at the sky.
He was banished to the Nightmare Realm.
Is this Fluttershy's mindscape?
Asked Lisa, brushing herself off. She looked and saw that the ring was gone from her hand.
I think so,
Maleficent said.
That's good, because we gotta find the shards.
Spike said.
Yeah,
said Jolene, shaking her head groggily as she pulled herself together.
Lisa, where did you put them?
Huh? I don't know.
Came a familiar voice. The group turned and saw the Nightmare King floating in front of them. In his hands was the sword of Excalibur, made whole once more.
Excellent work,
said the Nightmare Tyrant, appearing beside him.
You have done well, Nightmare Queen.
I had help?
Fluttershy said, flying in to land beside her friends. The Nightmare King laughed.
Not enough, it would seem.
Fluttershy, we tried, but...
Spike began, but Fluttershy cut him off.
I know. I saw. I'm so sorry.
We'll get them,
Maleficent said, her jaw set.
We'll get them all.
Yeah.
The group stared out at the Nightmare Realm. They had somehow traveled into what remained of this evil place, inside the mindscape of the Nightmare Queen, Fluttershy. Thanks to the protective magic of Velma, they'd somehow survived the Nightmare King's earlier attacks, but that magic was wearing thin now. At the center of the rolling hills of the Nightmare Realm stood a towering, castle-like tower, covered in creeping vines. It was surrounded by a thick wall made of black, twisted trees. The tower was made of the same black stone as everything else in the Nightmare Realm. The Nightmare King and Nightmare Tyrant stood beside each other, watching their army massed together in front of them.
You did well, my loyal subject,
the Nightmare Tyrant said.
I sensed your presence when I slayed that brat, Lisa, and I knew it would bring the Excalibur. I even pushed Fluttershy to send her friends to help you.
It worked out well.
The Nightmare King sneered as Nightmare Knights sprouted from the ground.
We have a new army.
Yes, my loyal subject,
the Nightmare Tyrant replied.
We have a new army. They are now the slaves of darkness, all in the name of Nightmare.
Slaves?
Maleficent growled.
You call these creatures slaves?
Yes, and we will call you slaves as well after you've surrendered,
the Nightmare Tyrant said with a smirk.
You are a fool if you think you can stop us,
Maleficent said.
We may be in the Nightmare Realm, and you are the Nightmare Master, but there is no way you can defeat us.
I've held him at bay for as long as I could,
Fluttershy said.
But he's too powerful.
Don't worry, we'll get them.
Jolene said.
We'll get everyone.
The Nightmare King laughed.
You can have the Excalibur, you fool. We have it on. What have you got?
Nothing,
Maleficent said.
You held yourself the Nightmare Tyrant, but you are nothing but a coward.
I am not the Nightmare Tyrant,
the Nightmare King said, his eyes narrowing.
I am a Nightmare Master, and I'm not a coward.
Yes, you are,
Maleficent said, shaking her head. The Nightmare King sneered, before turning and driving Excalibur into the heart of the Nightmare Tyrant. The Nightmare Tyrant's body exploded, and black, shadowy tentacles began to push outward, trying to grasp at the Nightmare Master.
Yes!
The Nightmare King cried. As the Nightmare Realm shook, the Nightmare Tyrant's power enveloped him, taking the form of black, tainted armor. The Nightmare Master's armor was tainted by the Nightmare Tyrant's dark magic, and it gave him the power to corrupt anything he touched.
I am the Nightmare Master. The Nightmare King is dead.
The Nightmare Master cried.
Long live the Nightmare Master.
The Nightmare Master's armor crackled as he stepped forward. The Nightmare Knights raised their weapons, preparing to charge.
We can still get out of this.
Jolene said.
We can still get them all.
No,
Spike said.
we don't need to. We just need to stop him.
What are you talking about?
Jolene asked.
This place,
Spike said.
it's just a memory of what was. We can use that. We can get out of it. What do you mean?
Applejack asked.
What are you talking about, Spike? I can't explain it to you. I just know we can get out of this. I know we can stop the Nightmare Master.
I'm ready to beat him to a pulp.
Roxy said, cracking her knuckles.
Whatever you're talking about, I'm ready to do it.
You don't understand. It's not a question of stopping him.
Spike said.
We need to go through him. We need to go into his mind. And we need to end his reign of terror. We can't let him continue. It's evil.
Evil?
Jolene asked.
What are you talking about, Spike?
The Nightmare Realm is evil.
Spike said.
And the Nightmare Master is its ruler. We need to go in there. We need to go into his mind, and we need to stop him from being evil. We can't let him do this. We can't let him hurt people.
Hurt people?
Maleficent snarled.
You fool! You forgot who I am.
I haven't forgotten who you are, but you're not in control here.
Spike said.
That's right. I am.
Fluttershy said, stepping forward. She had come a long way from her quiet days in Ponyville. She'd been tortured, murdered, and made to carry the weight of nightmares on her shoulders. All because of the selfish actions of the man who stood before her.
I am. You're not in control of me or any pony else. I am in control of all of us. The Nightmare Realm has no master. We are its masters.
No,
said the Nightmare Master.
you're slaves.
Fluttershy stepped forward, and her eyes began to glow. She looked at the Nightmare Master.
No.
She said, her voice a low rumble.
You will be stopped.
The Nightmare Master shook his head, but he could not escape the Nightmare Realm. His eyes glowed red, and he began to shrink. The Nightmare Realm began to disappear, to be replaced by what used to be the human village.
No.
The Nightmare Master shrieked.
I will have my vengeance.
You will have nothing.
Fluttershy said, raising her hoof. She pointed at the Nightmare Master, and his armor began to crumble.
What's happening?
Cammy asked.
This realm is within Fluttershy's mind.
Maleficent explained.
No matter how powerful the Nightmare Master is, he cannot affect her.
No, she cannot.
Jolene said.
We need to go in there, find his mind, and shut it down. We need to stop him from being in her head, and maybe we can get her to release us all.
You.
Said Roxy.
You can't do this.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Cammy asked.
We can't just walk into her head like it's the inside of her brain. How are we going to do this? Wait. Watch.
Maleficent said, holding up her hand. In an act of desperation, the Nightmare Master lunged forward with Excalibur. He struck at Fluttershy, who deflected the blow with a burst of pink lightning.
That's the power of love.
Spike said.
It's how she stopped Nightmare Chops. Don't know how she did it, but she was able to stop him. But she was,
Fluttershy raised her hoof, and a ray of light burst from it. The Nightmare Master recoiled in pain, dropping Excalibur. The Nightmare Realm began to crumble, cracks spreading through the ground like a spiderweb. The Nightmare Knights fell into the cracks, vanishing into a void.
She's destroying it.
The Nightmare Master cried.
I cannot get free. My nightmare realm is destroyed. I will perish here.
I think not.
Fluttershy said. The Nightmare Master turned to face Fluttershy as she raised her hoof, pointing it at his forehead.
I am the Nightmare Master.
He hissed.
I am Nightmare Tyrant. I am Nightmare Emperor. I am the Nightmare Realm.
The Nightmare Master froze in place. A smile spread across Fluttershy's face.
You are not the Nightmare Realm.
She said sweetly.
There is no such thing.
The Nightmare Master's eyes widened in surprise.
The Nightmare Realm is a lie.
Fluttershy continued, smiling.
And you are just a man.
I am the Nightmare Emperor.
The Nightmare Master said.
I am the Nightmare Realm.
Fluttershy shook her head.
No.
She said.
You're not. I am.
Pink light burst from Fluttershy's hoof through the Nightmare Master. Pink light shone from his eyes and his mouth, and his body filled with love.
I am the Nightmare Realm.
She said, smiling. And in that moment, the Nightmare Master was no longer the Nightmare Tyrant, the Nightmare Emperor, or the Nightmare Realm. He was just Hugh.
No!
He cried.
I am the Nightmare Realm. I'm Nightmare Emperor. You're slaves.
We're not.
Fluttershy said, smiling.
We're just friends.
She pulled Hugh in, hugging him. Tears welled up in his eyes.
You really did it, darling.
He said, smiling.
You really did.
Yeah.
She said, smiling.
We did.
The world around them faded away until they found themselves back in Castle Oblivion. Shadow Weaver and Lady Dimitrescu stood by. They had watched the Nightmare Master fade from existence. They watched as Fluttershy and Hugh embraced.
I don't know what you did, Spike,
Shadow Weaver said.
but I think this is finally over.
Well, we did shut it down for good.
Roxy said.
You did good, you too.
Maleficent said.
You showed that the Nightmare Realm is just an ideal they told to terrorize us all. Later. I'm glad we could help.
Cammy said before pausing.
We did help, right.
Roxy said.
We did.
I think we need to stop meeting like this.
Cammy said, shaking her head.
Really, I do.
I think you're right,
said Roxy.
I don't want to have a nightmare night. Or a nightmare real or anything nightmare related.
How do you feel?
Alcina asked, approaching him and Fluttershy.
Well, I'm still a little tired.
He said before yawning.
And I've still got a bit of head, but I'm fine, really.
You look exhausted.
I know.
He said.
I don't. Well, I did. It's a lot to take in.
You did good, kid.
Shadow Weaver said.
Really?
She patted Fluttershy on the head.
You did good, too.
She said, smiling.
Really?
I guess we're all free.
Roxy said.
I suppose we should go.
Here.
Cammy said.
I guess we should.
Roxy made to leave, but then froze.
Wait, what about the nightmare real?
She said.
Is it really gone for good?
As long as there's fear in the hearts of mortals, it will still linger.
Alcina said.
It could come back stronger than ever. And say, but I think you did a good thing. There, for the first time, the nightmare realm was truly put to rest.
Roxy nodded.
I guess it's time to go home,
she said.
Are we going to just let him go free?
Applejack asked, pointing to Hugh.
It may not be a nightmare whatever anymore, but he still caused a lot of pain and suffering.
You're right,
Hugh said, standing up.
This wasn't an accident. My ambition angered led me down this path.
That's not how I see it.
Applejack said.
You got caught up in your own little world, and you caused a lot of people pain.
I'm sorry for that,
Hugh said.
So, just gonna let you go.
Lisa asked.
I suppose we'll have to find a way to make amends,
he said.
You don't have to do anything.
Fluttershy said.
Yes, I do.
Hugh said.
I can hide behind the nightmare torrent's influence.
Well, you're still a free man.
Fluttershy said.
Go wherever you want.
I think I'll stay in Pondle.
Hugh said.
Wait, what?
She asked.
I destroyed it, so I should help rebuild it.
He explained.
They'll have me there.
Well, I guess I'll see you around then.
Fluttershy said.
You will.
And that's it, then.
Applejack said, looking at the others.
I think so.
Jolene said, looking at the others.
Well, guess this is the end.
She said, nodding.
I guess it is.
The others nodded.
It's been an interesting ride.
Alcina said.
I guess so.
Roxy said.
I want to go home.
Jolene said.
Me.
Roxy said, turning to leave.
Wait.
Jolene said, stopping Roxy before she left.
Thank you for everything you've done.
You're welcome.
Roxy said, blushing.
I know I let you down in the past, but I hope I've made it up to you. But you thought I died.
Jolene took Roxy's hand in her own.
You have.
She said.
And then some.
Roxy smiled.
So, we're good.
Cammy asked, turning to the others.
Yeah, we are good.
Jolene said.
Yeah, we are.
Roxy agreed.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Roxy waved to the others as she left.
See you soon. See you.
Roxy and Jolene returned to the Emerald City, while Spike and Applejack took Hugh with them to Ponyville. Cammy waited until the Dawn Treader arrived so she could be reunited with Skid and Pump.
So, I guess this is it.
She said.
I'm glad we got to spend this time together, you know. I wish we had more of it.
Yeah, me too.
Skid said.
Sorry we missed all the excitement.
Pump said.
Next time, I'm staying on board. Maybe we can go back to the old days.
Skid said, grinning.
You know, before the nightmare time.
Maybe we can.
Sandy joined back up with SpongeBob while Lisa asked if they could take her back to the Lost Realm so she could rejoin her family. Morbius, meanwhile, slipped away while nobody was looking. Fluttershy approached Maleficent with an offer.
Maleficent,
She said.
if you want to help repair this world, I will accept your help.
You would take my power.
The Green Fairy asked.
I'm afraid I don't have much of it left.
Well, you can still impart your wisdom.
She said.
Shadow Weaver and Alcina are both excel in help, but I can use all the old world knowledge I can get.
What do you mean?
I mean, I want you to tell me everything you know.
Everything.
Everything.
Moot.
Just try.
She said.
I suppose.
Maleficent began to tell Fluttershy everything she could remember about the old world. They sat together on a hill overlooking the sea, and, for a moment, the fairy felt an overwhelming sense of peace.
Everything is so different here.
She said.
I remember a time. The world was lush and beautiful. Now, it's barren and lifeless.
It's a harsh world we live in.
Fluttershy agreed.
But we don't have to like it. We can make it better.
You can't.
Maleficent said.
I can.
Fluttershy said, putting her hoof on Maleficent's hand.
With your help.
With my help?
Yes. Will you help me?
I suppose.
Maleficent said.
But I'm afraid I must be selfish and ask you for your help first.
Of course!
Fluttershy said.
What do I do?
First.
Maleficent said.
You must find the Dreaming Princess.
Who?
The Dreaming Princess.
Maleficent said.
She holds the key to the Nightmare Realm.
And where do I find her?
In her dreams.
Maleficent said.
She was herself a dream dreamed by the Nightmare King and Queen. To keep her from fading away, I had to hide her within her own dreams.
How can I find her in her dreams?
You can't.
Maleficent said.
Because you can't.
What do you mean? With the power of the Nightmare Queen, I should be able to enter anyone's dreams.
Because if you try to find the Dreaming Princess in her dream, you will send her straight into the Nightmare Realm. Should be destroyed. Only the key must be touched by a living creature.
But I'm a Pegasus.
Fluttershy said.
What am I supposed to do? Touch the key.
No!
Maleficent said.
Find a way to touch the key without setting her free.
I suppose that's impossible.
Yes.
Maleficent said.
It is.
Very well.
Fluttershy said.
What's the second thing?
Once you have found the Dreaming Princess, you must awaken her.
How do I do that?
You must give her the message that I have left for her.
What message?
You must tell her that she is loved. That I haven't forgotten about her.
But I don't know what that means.
Fluttershy said.
It sounds silly.
You must tell her.
Maleficent said.
Or she will remain lost to this world and the Nightmare Realm will remain free.
I will try.
Fluttershy said.
And what's the third thing?
Once you awaken the Dreaming Princess, you must give her the Stone of Volcar.
The Stone of Volcar.
Yes. It is again the power to free all the Dreaming Princesses. When you touch the Stone of Volcar to the forehead of the Dreaming Princess, she will awaken.
And where am I supposed to find the Stone of Volcar?
There are many scattered about the world now.
Maleficent said.
It seems the Nightmare Tyrant was making copies for some unknown reason.
Does it matter which one I use?
It does. You'll need to find the one hidden inside a robot named Bender.
A robot?
Yes. It is the only Bender in existence who has not yet been corrupted by the Nightmare Tyrant, and thus will be most likely to awaken the Dreaming Princess. You will have to enter his mind to find the Son of Volcar.
I suppose that's impossible.
Fluttershy said.
But is there anything else you can tell me?
Only one thing.
Maleficent said.
This quest will kill you.
I suppose that's inevitable.
Fluttershy said.
But I suppose I don't have any choice in the matter.
None whatsoever.
So, am I ready to leave?
Yes.
Maleficent said, and the two friends stood up.
Now are you ready to begin?
I suppose, but I'm not sure I'm prepared for this.
Good.
Maleficent said.
Because I'm not prepared for this either. Now remember your promise to help me repair this world. For the sake of those who have suffered at my hand.
I will.
Fluttershy said.
I will try my best.